3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Jack Stern and also Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Joe Flacco is going to stop by 20 minutes from now. Brian Urlacher will join us at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific. And then we will be joined by Ryan Horvat for a little NFL picks, conference championship weekend style at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. I want to start the show today talking about the coaches this weekend. And all four of these coaches clearly are having really damn impressive seasons when you were in the midst of being 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl. Like, you look at Dan Campbell and what he's been able to do this year, the expectations were for the Lions to make the playoffs and win a playoff game, something up until the wild card round that they have not done since 1991. And they were also looking for their first division championship since 1993. The expectations were high. He delivered, and then some. You look at Kyle Shanahan, I can't say he's delivered yet because the 49ers are one of the few teams that you entered this season which were Super Bowl or bust, but the 49ers have once again planted their place in the NFC for now as the best team in the NFC, and they have been able to get a lot out of Brock Purdy with the quarterback roulette that usually Kyle Shanahan plays. It seems like for now, he's willing to land to continue to ride the hot hand of Brock Purdy. You look at Andy Reid, it's Super Bowl or bust every year for the rest of his career. When you have the great Patrick Mahomes, even with them being some down moments, I will fully embrace this. I did not think that this Chiefs team would be playing in conference championship weekend, but here they are. You need to give it your best to take out the best. And the combination of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes each and every year ends up bare minimum in the AFC title game. And then you look at John Harbaugh, who John Harbaugh has won a Super Bowl, is looked at as one of the better coaches in football, had Joe Flacco, won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco, and then they elected to draft Lamar Jackson. And the only legitimate criticism, and sometimes I think it's way too premature with Lamar Jackson because it hasn't been an incredibly big sample size, but you know how we are in this society. You lose a few playoff games. Let me get the hot takes. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Lamar Jackson will never win a Super Bowl. Do you think he could ever win a big game? Give me a call. And that's been the stuff that I've rolled my eyes at through the last 2-3 years because yes, Lamar has won a unanimous MVP. Lamar is going to win another MVP this season. And we're talking about a 4-game, 5-game sample size heading into this postseason for Lamar. And he hadn't had good results, but that doesn't mean that he can't win. There's been a lot of quarterbacks, when you look back in the history of the NFL, that, quite frankly, didn't have a lot of postseason success in the beginning or the middle of their career. And then towards the end of the year, they did ride off into the sunset as a Super Bowl champion. So John Harbaugh, it's about winning that next one and finding a way to take advantage of the window that you have because of the style that Lamar Jackson plays. Even though he does a good job protecting his body, you never know how long Lamar Jackson is going to last as a quarterback. And I say that being an incredibly big proponent, fan, and advocate of Lamar Jackson. So here we are with these 4 coaches. And I want to rank these 4 coaches. Not all-time rankings, not next year like in the summer when we do a top 10 list, who's the best coach in football, but who are the coaches and who is the coach out of these 4 that you trust the most, and who is it that you trust the least heading into this weekend? And when I start things off, let's go from the coach I trust the least to the coach I trust the most. So we'll work from 4 to 1. I think 4 is going to surprise some people because this guy is a good coach, a really good coach, one of the better coaches in football, but I'm not going to fawn over him in the postseason because he's had his limitations in the postseason. And that's Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, out of all 4 of these coaches this weekend, and we have 4 incredible coaches, is the coach I actually trust the least. And I get it. He's an offensive wizard. He's an offensive genius. But this guy, the last few years in San Francisco, has had some of the best rosters in football, and he's reached the NFC title game a bunch. He reached one Super Bowl, but unfortunately for Kyle Shanahan, until he gets the big trophy, until he gets the big shiny Lombardi trophy, he's going to have to live with the statement that everyone says, and it's a fair statement with Kyle Shanahan. He's a great coach, But in the big game, he can't protect a lead to save his life. Because the two instances that you remember just vividly when it comes to Kyle Shanahan's career, even with all the success, offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. He was the OC when the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead. If you want to say, oh, Zach, you can blame that more on Dan Quinn, okay, be my guest. How about in the Super Bowl up against Kansas City, he had a 10-point lead with 7.5 to play. I don't care how great Patrick Mahomes is. A 10-point lead with 7.5 to play, and you are this great of a coach, you needed to win that Super Bowl. So until Kyle gets a Super Bowl done, and until he hoists that Lombardi trophy, it is going to be great coach Kyle Shanahan, very good coach Kyle Shanahan, but doesn't have the Lombardi trophy. And all the pressure this weekend is on the 49ers. People aren't expecting the Lions to win. People expect the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl. And then we'll see, depending on who the opponent is, if the expectation is to win the Super Bowl. But for me, it's Super Bowl or bust with the 49ers because you have a great roster. You have guys that are getting older. You've had guys that have played on long postseason runs and have taken a lot of hits. Eventually, that window is going to start to close. They have a window of the next few years, and they got to take advantage. But because of the shortcomings in the past of the playoffs, even the Rams, I know you could blame that on drop interception, all that, but they were in the NFC title game. They should have beat the Rams a few years ago, and it was crazy that they were there. Like, they weren't expected to get there that year, but they weren't able to protect the lead up against the Rams as well. So Shanahan is the coach that I least trust this weekend, just this weekend. In at number 3, it's Dan Campbell. And I know people could say, Zach, how could you put Campbell in front of Shanahan? Sometimes we praise aggressiveness in sports and we praise it with stupidity. That's not the case with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell has been extremely aggressive. Dan Campbell has been extremely confident. And Dan Campbell has hit every right button ever since taking over as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. And to turn that franchise around and to do it this quickly, it is remarkable. He's on his 3rd year as the head coach. Year 1 was a wash. Year 2 got off to an ugly start. And then that team started to hum down the stretch. And they were phenomenal. They were on fire down the stretch. They were one of the hottest teams in football at the end of last season. And then it carries over into this year with everyone expecting you to make the playoffs. A lot of people expecting you to win the division. And now you're 60 minutes away from a Super Bowl. I love what Dan Campbell does. I'm not saying Dan Campbell's the best coach in football because that would be crazy. But he is actually my favorite coach in football. He's the guy that I'm pulling for the most to go win a championship and go win a championship this season. Now, I don't think the Lions win on Sunday, but I fully believe in Dan Campbell. And that wasn't always the case. When everyone was loving and genuflecting to Dan Campbell, who gave a great introductory press conference. Awesome. I said he kind of gave me like a Big Ten football coach vibe. And that his ideal setting would be in college. He's proven me wrong. He has been a great, and I mean a great head coach in the NFL. In at number 2. I think this is going to surprise people. And the reason why I just let out that noise is because I know what the reaction's going to be. I'm not saying John Harbaugh is a better coach all time than Andy Reid. But I do put Andy Reid 2 on this list in terms of coaches that I trust the most this weekend. And a big reason why is the Ravens are just a better football team. And even with the expectation of being Super Bowl or bust for the Chiefs is every year, and I'm cognizant that they're not going to win the Super Bowl each and every year. It just doesn't happen. Reid getting to this point, it is impressive, but it won't be praised. But the fact that you allowed that offense with Mahomes at times just look rather unproductive and allowed us to legitimately question it this year is just something. When I go into this weekend and I say, which coach should I trust the most? Well, look at what the Ravens have. Like, the Ravens don't have a number 1 wide receiver as well. Yeah, Mark Andrews, I know he's coming back, but he's been hurt. They replaced him with Isaiah Likely. John Harbaugh lost J.K. Dobbins and Keaton Mitchell, and we've seen their run game still be extremely productive. When you look at the 2 backs that they have in Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. The Ravens, like Zay Flowers, could be a number 1 wide receiver, but he's not right now. Odell Beckham Jr. used to be a number one wide receiver, but he's not right now. And also, you want to talk about exceeding expectations. Like, the Chiefs haven't exceeded expectations this year. The Ravens have. There were a lot of people, including me, and I've been a fan of Lamar, I've been a big proponent of Lamar, that didn't pick the Ravens this year because we didn't know, to make the playoffs, because we didn't know if Lamar was going to be healthy with the last two seasons, their season ending, and Lamar Jackson was not on the field. So when I look at Harbaugh to Reed this upcoming weekend, I know Andy's going to the Hall of Fame. I know Andy is a legend. I know Andy went to countless NFC title games in Philadelphia. Right now, it's 6 straight AFC title games in Kansas City. He's been to 3 Super Bowls, and he's won 2. But just in terms of the coach I trust more and the coach that I think has been more impressive this year, it's John Harbaugh over Andy Reid. Like, the Ravens were legitimately questioned if they could make the playoffs. And not only did they rise heading into the postseason as being the best team in the AFC, they've been the best team in the NFL this year. And the only other team that could rival them for being the best team in the NFL this year are the San Francisco 49ers, and the Ravens kicked the snot out of the 49ers when they played them a few weeks ago. So when I look at the coaches this weekend, who's been the most impressive? Who do I trust the most? And that's the way that we'll word it. Who do I trust the most? I'm going to say that it's Kyle Shanahan 4, Dan Campbell 3, Andy Reid in at 2, and then number 1, John Harbaugh. And what a year it could be for the Harbaugh family. A few weeks ago, you see Jim win a national championship. Now, Jim is back to the NFL, saying his goodbyes today at Michigan, and he's off to the Los Angeles Chargers, where I guess he'll get introduced sometime next week. And you have another son who's already won a Super Bowl and who beat Jim Harbaugh in a Super Bowl, who is now 60 minutes away from going to another Super Bowl, and 2 weeks from now could win his second Lombardi Trophy, and that would solidify a spot for John Harbaugh in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So who's the coach that you trust the most this weekend? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Is it Kyle Shanahan? Is it Dan Campbell? Is it Andy Reid? For me, it is John Harbaugh. All right, we'll take our first time out of the day. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. One of the better stories of the NFL this year has been what Joe Flacco was able to do with the Cleveland Browns. The former Super Bowl MVP, and now he is a finalist for the Comeback Player of the Year award, is going to join us on the other side. Joe Flacco, who won a Super Bowl with the Ravens, quarterbacked the Browns this past season towards the back end, led him to the playoffs. He's going to join us right here on CBS Sports Radio when the Zach Gelb Show returns in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Now joining us on the guest line is a Super Bowl MVP. Had one of the better stories in the NFL this past season, quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns. And that, of course, is Joe Flacco, kind enough to join us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Joe, first and foremost, congratulations on an incredible season. Thanks so much for doing this, and how you been?
Yeah, can't complain. You know, wish we were still going, but doing well.
When the season finally ended, and you're right, you had the whole story, you go to Cleveland, you have the immediate success, you go into Houston. I know the playoff game didn't go your way, but when you have to put it into words what you guys were able to accomplish this year and this journey and the ride that it was for you, how do you kind of do that?
Yeah, listen, it's always a lot of fun when you go out there and you're able to win some football games and do it with a bunch of guys that, you know, are awesome to be around. So I think anytime you play this game, you want to give yourself a chance, and that means get to the playoffs and, you know, see where you can go from there. It's always disappointing when it ends so abruptly, you know, kind of no matter how the few weeks have gone before that. So it's always tough to kind of look back and maybe initially see all the positives, but it was a lot of fun.
You know what you're capable of, and you've been doubted a lot. But going into that locker room and quickly developing that chemistry, how did you guys be able to do that? Because that was the most impressive part to me. It was you bring a new guy in, and then boom, pretty quickly, you guys are starting to play at a very high level.
I think it's just a credit to the guys that were in that room, credit to the coaches for the way they put things together. But you could tell that it was a pretty tight knit locker room as soon as you walk in there. And I think just it's never easy to step into a new situation, and it's never easy for a team to kind of welcome a guy that shows up so late like I did. But I think a lot of credit goes to those guys for being able to do that and make it as seamless as possible.
Talking to Joe Flacco right now. I know you want to keep on playing for a long time, I would imagine. How much longer, though, do you think you keep on playing in the NFL?
It's impossible to put numbers on it because you just never know. It's not always in your control. I mean, look, it could have easily not gotten a call the last couple months of the season and been sitting here kind of thinking, all right, that was it, I guess, So it's tough to kind of put a number on it and try to look at those things. You have to, just like each week when you're in the season, you have to look at it week to week. You have to just kind of do the same thing with how you go, and keep the off season's the off season. Let's focus on that. Let's make sure you're in shape to go somewhere, and you just take it day by day and see where it goes. I know I want to play, and I want to do it as long as I can and feel capable of doing that. Other people don't always see it how you see it. I mean, obviously the person involved probably sees, I was talking to somebody recently, and it's like, I'm probably going to think I can still play when I'm 55, 60 years old. I mean, obviously that's not going to be the case, so obviously there's a point where like your expectations and how you feel about yourself don't necessarily match up with the reality, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. Even though there's still going to be some doubters, there's always going to be that. But we'll see. We'll see when that happens.
Would you go to a place where you would be a backup? Like if it's not guaranteed that you're going to be a starter, is that something that you would still do and see how it plays out?
Listen, once again, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to, each opportunity and each situation, it's not as easy as just saying yes to that or no to that. I think each little thing, each little team or whatever, if let's say I have a couple opportunities, they're all going to be different in their own way. And like this year, I could tell you that I didn't have to make that decision. Like, hey, would I go take an opportunity somewhere to be a backup and not really knowing how good that team is going to be and what my role is going to be? I would have liked to tell you that I would have been able to turn something like that down this spring and summer. But I don't know if I would have been able to turn it down. I would have viewed it as an opportunity, and I would have probably went and taken that and seen where it takes me. But deep down, I did want to be able to turn those kind of things down and wait for the right opportunity. In the case of this year, it was kind of done for me. I didn't have any opportunities, so it wasn't like I had to say no to anybody. That I was at home. I was doing my work. I was working out and waiting for a call. So I do think there is positives to sitting around this year. There was positives to being available when I was available, as opposed to being locked down on another team. I think hopefully my opportunities will be a little bit different this year in terms of getting some calls here and there. I mean, you never know, and I'm going to have to assess each one of those for what it is and go from there.
Joe Flacco here with us. What was it like for you mentally? Because I always think that is so tough on a player when all they know their entire life is football, and then you went obviously through a few month period where you didn't know if you were going to play again. So how was that mentally for you?
I think it was strangest probably when training camp was starting up and I wasn't going anywhere. It's been, over 20 years where I've been doing that, 25 years. I've been going to a training camp in August in some capacity and getting ready to play a football season. So I think that was probably the point where it became the most real. And then from then on out, it really wasn't as big of a deal. I think you kind of get over that in your head that you're not going somewhere, and you get back into the mindset of just kind of making sure you're prepared if that day comes.
Being in the same locker room this year as Kevin Stefanski, a locker room run by Kevin Stefanski, he was entering the season on the hot seat, and clearly he's going to be back next year, and he coached his ass off, and there's a good case for him to win another Coach of the Year award. We'll see what happens in a few weeks when they announce the awards. But what did you take away being around a lot of good coaches from your time with Kevin Stefanski?
Yeah, such an interesting league, right? Like how, 1 second everybody's super high, and then the next second everybody's super low, and it's just not necessarily the reality of how it works. You have to give people time, and you have to. It's a hard league, and you're not always going to. You're not going to be 13-4 and 15-2 every single year, and even 11-6. It's just not that easy. It's not the way it works. Every year is a new year, and Kevin's an unbelievable coach, and he's done an unbelievable job. I think this year was a good year for him to prove that. But I think that's what it proves, that he's good. If he's somebody that you like, and that he's good, and he can grow, you understand that in 5 years from now it might not be the same, but who you have in him. I think he's shown everybody that. I think he's had the time now to show everybody that he's capable of doing it at the highest level. And now it's just a matter of having the pieces and making sure everything goes the right way. But he's definitely a guy that you want, in that locker room behind the scenes and running the show.
I know he was hurt, but what was your relationship like with Deshaun Watson? Just wondering.
Yeah, when Deshaun was around, it was great. I think even from afar, watching it on TV when he wasn't in there playing and TJ was playing or Dorian was playing, I think he did a great job of being excited for everything that was going on, even though he wasn't the guy at the moment.
Are you confident that he could? I know it's going to be awkward because whenever someone uses the word elite with you, that's always polarizing. So that wasn't intentional. But are you confident that one day Deshaun Watson could be an elite quarterback again?
Oh, for sure. Listen, I mean, I still feel like he's not been in the league that long, and for him, it's just about staying healthy and getting back out there and getting a full season under his belt.
I didn't mean to do that, but the elite conversation with you is always an interesting one. Like, how do you personally take that? Like, you won a Super Bowl, you won a Super Bowl MVP, so bleep anybody that doesn't want to give you the credit, but that's always something that's still to this day. Like, I was having fun with it when you were playing. I'm like, elite Joe Flacco is back, and everyone was running with it.
Yeah, it's just that's the biggest thing is like, listen, I don't take offense to very much. So it's like, it can be taken however you want it, but I just kind of let people have fun with it. Ultimately, that's what it is. It's people kind of having fun and just creating some kind of story out of nothing or, whatever it may be. So that's kind of how I treat it. Listen, I mean, it's all over the place. As soon as I start playing, I'm like, listen, I've had, everywhere from people in the media talking about it to my buddies. And, when my buddies are messing with me about it, talking to me about it, it's usually it's usually making fun of me. That's or awesome. Trying to get some kind of reaction out of me, which is great. I'm sure my kids will get involved in it at some point. It was just like, it was one of those big topics of conversation, 12 years ago. And it just kind of grew into what it is. And, like I said, I let people have fun with it. No matter what they truly mean, the true meaning behind it, who really cares? If they're kind of shitting on me, okay, have fun with it. If they actually mean it, have fun with it,
Yeah, Joe Flacco here with us. Absolutely love that answer. That was awesome. Let me ask you about Jared Goff, because that's someone that, right, has been disrespected, has been to a Super Bowl, could be to another Super Bowl after this weekend. With the way that Jared Goff is covered, do you see some of yourself just wondering in Jared Goff?
I don't know. It's probably tough to look at yourself and compare to others. So it's probably easier for somebody like you to kind of be a little bit more removed from that situation and look at it. But I will say, I mean, to go to another team and to kind of do it the way that it happened with him. And yeah, obviously there's that like sense of there's that feeling that comes around that, whatever that may be, however people feel about it. It's pretty impressive for him to stay, confident and all the stuff that goes along with that mentally, to deal with that mentally. I'm sure he was excited on some level, like as much as, other people wanted to talk about this and that, about the switch from the Rams to Detroit. I'm sure he was excited on a level to kind of get into a situation where he probably felt like it was a new beginning and, the organization was around him and all that. So I'm sure he had some help along the way, but it's still impressive to mentally kind of go from one team to the other, especially when you did take that team that you were at to the Super Bowl and now kind of be able to get right back to that point again. It's not easy to win in this league. And for him to be able to do it in multiple places definitely says a lot about him.
I know what you just did this past season with Cleveland was so phenomenal, as Joe Flacco is here with us for a few more moments on CBS Sports Radio. And I know that the Ravens were an enemy this year, but you'll always be remembered as a Baltimore Raven winning that Super Bowl, that being where the bulk of your career was. To see what John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson are doing this year, just what kind of emotion does it elicit from you?
I don't know if I'm too emotional about it. I mean, but it's not surprising. I mean, they're always a good football team. I mean, what's their, it's the typical formula for them. They're a physical football team that wants to run the ball, and they're going to play phenomenal defense. Besides a year here and there, that's what they do, and you expect them to be around at this point in the year.
Who do you think wins this weekend, by the way, in both these games?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Baltimore is the easy choice for people, and San Francisco is the easy choice for people, but at this point in the year, man, you have four good teams going at it. I mean, Kansas City's been there every single year. It's just so funny. I mean, how week to week it is. A few weeks ago, everybody's super down on, what kind of chances they have, but they're right back there. I think both of those defenses are obviously capable, so it's just going to be a matter of which one can kind of, show up on Sunday and be able to kind of get some pressure on the quarterback, maybe cause a turnover here or there. And then I think the San Francisco-Detroit game, I think San Francisco is a completely different team when they get pressure on the quarterback, when they don't get pressure on the quarterback. And I think that's probably what it's going to come down to. Can Detroit get their back going? I mean, it's fun to kind of, it's funny when you're like somebody like me, like I do watch games, but you don't necessarily get a full feel for how everybody is. But last week watching the Lions go, I mean, if they get their back going, he looked pretty explosive. So if they can get pressure, if they can also get pressure on the Niners and they can get their back going offensively, like just have him pop a big couple plays, then listen, those guys are riding high right now. Detroit's behind them, and they're riding to momentum. So you never know how these things are going to go. It's impossible to call them. Like I said, the easy choices are Baltimore and San Francisco, but who knows?
Last thing I'll ask you, when you look back at that Super Bowl that you won, it was a great Super Bowl, right? You guys had the big lead, then the 49ers took it back, but you guys were able to get the job done at the end. I always wonder, and I've never had a chance to ask this to you, what did you do coming out of halftime when you had the whole blackout situation when some people believe that was intentional by the NFL, by the way?
Yeah, right. Well, I don't really remember. I don't think I did much. Obviously we tried. There's probably a time where our strength and conditioning guys gathered us up and made sure that we were doing something to stay loose, especially because it wasn't long after halftime, and it's an extended halftime as it is. But ultimately, we didn't know how long it was going to last. So we're kind of just hanging out, getting ready for the lights to get turned back on, if I remember right. And then It obviously lasted probably a little bit longer than anybody thought. So it's tough to go back there and put myself in that situation and remember exactly what we did. But like I said, I think it was mostly just kind of standing around waiting for some kind of information on what was going to happen next.
He is Joe Flacco. Actually, Joe, I just have to ask you about this. The finalists for the Comeback Player of the Year award came out yesterday. I know you won, right, the highest honor that anyone could win in the NFL, and that's Super Bowl MVP. But it's yourself, DeMar Hamlin, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, and then Tua Tagovailoa. How'd you kind of process that one the other day?
Well, I don't necessarily know what I'm coming back from. I would say most of the guys on that list, I'm not sure what we're coming back from. So that's probably my initial reaction. But I think anytime that you're, getting recognized in this league for, playing well, I guess, it can be flattering. So it's a cool group to be a part of. That's for sure. But yeah, that's my initial thought is I'm not necessarily, I'm just coming back from, being old and, not being on a team for a couple months. So who knows?
Would that be bizarre if you won the award with the way that you just laid it out?
Oh, of course. I think we could probably go through most of the guys on that list besides DeMar. I don't know if we're necessarily coming back from anything, but
so do you think DeMar should win it? Is that what you're saying? Just wondering.
For sure. I don't know how many snaps he played, but I just think mentally to get yourself back to the point where you feel comfortable doing that kind of thing. And, obviously the physical part stands for, you don't need any explanation there, but I think mentally to get yourself ready to go back out there and feel good doing that, what we do, especially at his position, is pretty cool.
He is Joe Flacco. Joe, can't appreciate the time. Good luck. Thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you.
There you go. Joe Flacco joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Excellent conversation with him. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We do this segment every Monday and Friday on CBS Sports Radio. Stu's got some questions for me. I'll give you some answers. We'll do onside, offside next. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
Well, the NFL season comes down to 4 teams. The Chiefs and Ravens battle Sunday for a trip to Las Vegas and Super Bowl 58. The 49ers will meet the Lions in the NFC game. Kansas City is making its 6th consecutive appearance in the AFC title game. John Harbaugh has a Super Bowl ring. However, his quarterback looking for his first after an MVP-worthy season. Lamar Jackson ready for the next challenge.
We can't overshadow what's in front of us right now. Not at all. Those guys are the former Super Bowl champions. And to be a champion, you got to go through a champion, so that's pretty much the mindset.
Jackson will have one of his targets back Sunday when tight end Mark Andrews is activated off injured reserve. The second game of the night takes place in Santa Clara. The Niners were the conference's top seed, are in this spot for the second straight year. The Lions, one of the few teams that hasn't won a Super Bowl and have never been there. Their last title coming back in 1957. No word on the definitive status of Niners receiver Deebo Samuel. Brandon Staley is reportedly talking to the Packers regarding their vacant defensive coordinator spot. And in the NBA tonight, the Suns go for their 8th in a row in Indiana. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
And it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Stu, what do we got cooking today, my friend?
All right, Zach. Well, we talked to Joe Flacco. He was a former Raven. Well, the Ravens, they did get a big injury boost out of Sunday's game, as tight end Mark Andrews has been activated after missing the last 2 months with an ankle injury. Lamar's favorite target caught 45 passes for 544 yards and 6 touchdowns in 9 games before his injury. So onsides, offsides, you expect Mark Andrews to have a positive impact in Sunday's game.
I don't know how much he is going to play or how effective he will be. Isaiah Likely has been a touchdown machine for them, and he's been very good. You know, I've won some cash this year betting Isaiah Likely anytime touchdowns with seeing what he was able to do once Mark Andrews did go down. I'm shocked Andrews ever, is able to come back. Last week it seemed like there was a chance that this was going to happen, but when he went down with that injury, I think it was against the Bengals, because I'm pretty sure it was the same game where Joe Burrow had the whole hand injury as well. I could be wrong on that, but that's the way that I just remember it. I thought his season was definitely over. But I don't think there could be a negative impact here. I think you throw him out, see what he has, and if he doesn't have much, then you bench him. So I don't think there's any negative there. So you expect Mark Andrews to have a positive impact in Sunday's game? Yeah, I would go onsides on that one.
It now appears that Bill Belichick is getting shut out of a head coaching job in this cycle.
Off-season. We're on to TV. All right, Stu, we're on to TV.
So now in Dallas, Jerry Jones shockingly kept Mike McCarthy, who has just 1 year left on his contract.
Quack, quack, lame duck.
Onsides, offsides, Bill Belichick will be the head coach of the Cowboys in 2025.
It's a possibility. It is. But I'm going to go offside, and the reason why I'm going to go offside is since Marash just went after me on Twitter for having a little fun, and I tweeted out, I'm going to the AFC Championship game this weekend. I want to chug a beer with Jason Kelsey. Can't wait for Chiefs and Ravens. And Cap did a great job photoshopping my face on Jason Kelsey's body in the luxury box drinking a beer. And like in a joking manner, I tagged Taylor Swift, Jason Kelsey, Donna Kelsey, Travis Kelsey. And then Marash writes, Zach tagging Taylor Swift and the Kelseys here is a bold strategy. It is more desperate than I am after a dinner at a chain restaurant and a 15-minute drive to the nearest toilet. Let's be real. Marash doesn't make it to the toilet. He goes in his pants, and that's been well documented. Like, Marash is teaching some class now, which I question all the integrity and intelligence of the university, that he can now be a professor. But I just imagine those students like, oh, we have a radio guy teaching us. They go to Google him, and it's like radio producer poops his pants on the air. But since Marash just went at me, I like to kill people with kindness. So Brian Daboll is going to have another disappointing season with the Giants. And then Bill Belichick, who is a former Giant, right, was the defensive coordinator, won 2 Super Bowls, and has great respect for the New York Football Giants. He'll end up in the swamps of Jersey next year after Brian Daboll misses the postseason in back-to-back years. So Bill Belichick will be coaching the Cowboys in 2025. I will go offside.
Offside.
Number 3.
So Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence is up for a contract extension this offseason, and general manager Trent Baalke discussed that when meeting with the media on Thursday, saying, quote, as far as Trevor and the long-term relationship with this team, there's no doubt in that we are going to get something done at the appropriate time, end of quote. So onsides, offsides, you're confident in the Jaguars being a consistent playoff team with Trevor Lawrence making big quarterback money.
I was thoroughly disappointed with them this year. Really, any big game, they failed. And it's one thing to not take that next step, but to regress in a big way and not even make the playoffs, that is concerning. And that division is getting good. Texans aren't going anywhere. C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans and Will Anderson Jr. And then the Colts, I think they could regress this year, but they didn't have their quarterback Anthony Richardson last year. And Gardner Minshew played well. So I'm going to go offside here. Last year, I was very confident and thoroughly confident in Peterson and Lawrence. Now I think it's a big question mark if they could consistently be a playoff team. And Trevor Lawrence is good, but he was supposed to be generational. He was supposed to be great, and I haven't seen that yet. So when you say you were confident the Jaguars can build a consistent playoff team with Trevor Lawrence making big QB money, I will go offside.
Offside.
While it appears offensive coordinator Sharon Moore is the likely successor for Jim Harbaugh as Michigan's head coach, the Athletics' Bruce Feldman says that LSU's Brian Kelly is a possible candidate, and there's, quote, a lot of chatter, end quote, that Kelly would be interested in heading to Ann Arbor. So he wants
to move his family to Michigan? He wants to move the family to good old Michigan? Get some Zingerman's sandwiches with the family? That's what he wants to do?
Appears that way.
That accent will go away real quickly in Michigan.
Yeah.
Fraud, Brian Kelly. Fraud.
So I think I kind of know where you're going with this. Onsides, offsides, Brian Kelly would be a good fit at Michigan.
Brian Kelly's a good coach. I don't see why he would leave LSU. They have been able to produce 3 national champion coaches since 2000. When you had Nick Saban, you had obviously Les Miles, and then my favorite college coach of all time, Go Tigers, with Ed Orgeron. I don't think Brian Kelly should leave LSU. Just that this is out there. You know, maybe it's a play from his agent, but he doesn't need any more money with the contract that he just got at LSU. So maybe Brian Kelly's having some remorse about going there, and he's not confident with what he's doing with the Tigers. But I just don't think Kelly would be a good fit at Michigan. I think it needs to be Sharon Moore. So you say Brian Kelly would be a good fit at Michigan. I will go offside.
Offside.
Sticking with college football, Lane Kiffin has been active in the transfer portal this offseason as he added 2 former Washington offensive linemen on Thursday. Following the signings, Lane Kiffin quote-tweeted a tweet from Rebel Sports Talk that said, quote, Lane looked at Georgia's sideline and realized we needed to get bigger in the trenches and immediately in the transfer portal alone gets, end of quote, and it had the names of the 5 players that they got. Lane quote-tweeted that saying, facts. Onsides, offsides, Ole Miss will win an SEC championship in the next 5 seasons as long as Kiffin remains as their head coach?
2-3 weeks ago, I probably would say no. But now with Saban out, and I'm a big believer in Kalen DeBoer, and Kirby Smart's still going to run the SEC until someone outside of Alabama can take him down. But I do think there's a possibility now for Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin to jump up, here or there as the second best team in the SEC. And if you're the second best team, then you get into an SEC championship game, and maybe you could find a way to get the job done. So Ole Miss will win an SEC championship in the next 5 seasons as long as Lane Kiffin remains as head coach. I'm going to say yes because I like the personality of Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin is extremely interesting. He clearly can connect with players, and he's got that NIL and that transfer portal flowing right now at Ole Miss. So I will go on sides, actually, with that one, and a big part of it is Nick Saban retiring.
So the NBA All-Star starters were announced last night, and missing from the Eastern Conference's lineup was Knicks guard Jalen Brunson.
That's just the starters, right?
That's the starters,
okay.
Yes. Despite finishing ahead of Bucks guard Damian Lillard in both media and player voting, he finished behind him in fan voting. So onsides, offsides, the All-Star games around all sports, NBA, NFL, MLB, should ditch fan voting and let the media and peers select participants.
No, I wouldn't ditch the fan voting. I wouldn't. Now, it's a mixture, right? Especially in the NBA, there's fan voting and there's player voting, right?
Yes, in media, yes.
And media voting. I don't think it's a problem. Let's be real. The media will get stuff wrong, the players will get stuff wrong, and the fans will get stuff wrong. Sometimes I think the fans are better than the players and the media, quite frankly. That's not always the case, though. So when you say All-Star games should ditch fan voting and let the media and peers select participants, I will go offside. And another big reason why is because All-Star games are are happening to make money, and they're really for the fans, and it's tough to get buy-in regardless from the fans. So if you eliminate the fan voting, I don't think that is very productive. So there we go, another edition of Onside Offside right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. So I will definitely go offside on that one when you say All-Star games should ditch fan voting and let the media and peers select participants. Okay. We will take a time out. Very busy hour number 1 of the show. Well, we have a busier hour number 2. Nick Saban, gone from Alabama. Jim Harbaugh, gone from Michigan. Who is the new face of college football after Saban has retired and Harbaugh is bolted back to the pros? And also, there's only 3 coaches right now in college football with the championship. Who's the next coach to win their first championship? Stuart Kovacs and I will do a draft. He'll pick 3 names. I'll pick 3 names when we return in 5 minutes right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And Brian Urlacher will join us 25 minutes from now.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rock and roll in hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Brian Urlacher, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, going to join us coming up 20 minutes from now. We had Joe Flacco on the show about 40 minutes ago, and he said that DeMar Hamlin should win Comeback Player of the Year. I also thought it was hysterical when I asked him, I prefaced it by saying, I know you probably don't care about Comeback Player of the Year because you've won a Super Bowl, you've won a Super Bowl MVP, and I can't imagine an accolade is really going to impress Joe Flacco at this point of his life. And he just said, well, what the heck am I coming back from? Just being old, coming off the couch? I thought that was a great line there from Joe Flacco. So appreciate his time, and we'll talk with Brian Urlacher, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, 20 minutes from now. So we've had the two biggest names in college football recently depart the sport. Nick Saban, we know, is out at Alabama as their head coach. He still has an office. We know Kalen DeBoer is now the new head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and he's been the face of college football for, the last 20 years? And he's been the biggest name in the game. He's been the best coach, and he's the greatest college football coach of all time. And then Jim Harbaugh, if he stayed at Michigan, and we know he's not staying at Michigan. He had his final team meeting with the squad today, and now he's going to, I believe, go to Baltimore on Sunday for the AFC title game. And then once that ends, he will go to Los Angeles as he will start his tenure as the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. But Jim Harbaugh was in line with Saban leaving, especially when he defeated Saban. And also, he's a polarizing person. You had Jim Harbaugh with the possibility, if he stayed at Michigan, to be the face of college football. And you can't really have players be the face of college football because they're there in most cases for 3 or 4 years. I know we have like some 7th and 8th year super duper seniors, but for the most part in college athletics, whether it's basketball or football, the two main college sports that we talk about, the coaches 9.9 times out of 10 are the face of the sport. So now we're in an era where there's no Nick Saban, there is no Jim Harbaugh, and you start to wonder, like, who could be the next face of college football? And I think the first name that you think of is Kirby Smart. But I also believe that being the face of college football kind of entails you to kind of have a little villain in you and be a little bit polarizing. I know Kirby Smart has been really successful, right? He's won 2 championships, back-to-back years, dominant teams, had a chance to go back-to-back this year. They lost 1 game, and they weren't in the Final Four. But I wouldn't say that Kirby Smart is polarizing. You know, I know this could be a different take inside the SEC country, but a lot of that's just probably rooted in jealousy. I don't think Kirby Smart, if you ask the unbiased person, is really hated. I don't think people dislike Kirby Smart, but now he is the king of college football. And when you are the king of college football, you then take the title most years of being the face of college football. But like, Stu, let me ask you this. Would you agree with that assessment? Because I know you watch a lot of college football. Saban, he was hated because he won, but it was also like the persona of Saban. It was so great, and he was the king, and everyone was trying to dethrone him, and he kept on knocking so many teams over and over and over and over, year in and year out. You had like a little run of Dabo. You had the run of Kirby, but even in the SEC championship game, you saw this most recent one, Alabama beat Georgia. So there's been some people, like Ed Orgeron had his moment in the spotlight and all of that. But for the most part, last 20 years, he's been the biggest, baddest name. And it kind of came off Belichickian, where, you know, he's sometimes smug with the media as well. I think Saban is more well-liked nationally than Bill Belichick. But he was that guy where you either loved him or you hated him, and there was no in between. Like, I don't find Kirby Smart right now as someone that really has, I know everyone has haters, but I don't think that a lot of people nationally say, oh, I hate Kirby Smart at all.
Yeah, he's not as polarizing as Saban. And the fact that Saban, like you said, did it for so long, had guys that, you know, battled him, but it was only, I don't think any of those guys lasted more than a couple of years. Even Dabo, who for a few years had Clemson there. He's fallen off after just, 3, 4, 5 really, really, really good years at Clemson. It's just not the same. And yeah, I just don't see that same, like Kirby Smart, I just don't see that same. He's not as polarizing as Saban was.
Well, you know how he can become that?
If he wins like 3 more.
Yeah, you keep on winning. Naturally, people will hate your guts. Like, look at this year in the NFL. There's never been a reason to really dislike the Kansas City Chiefs. Once the Chiefs were bitching and complaining after they lost the game to the Bills because they didn't get a call where Kadarius Toney was offside and he lined up offside, that's when I thought some people really started to hate the Chiefs, because the Chiefs have won, but the Chiefs haven't been polarizing. The Chiefs haven't been hated because they also have lived in the shadows so far of the Patriots, and now the Patriots are dead with Belichick no longer there, Brady no longer there. They have the 3rd pick in the draft, so now the Chiefs are kind of like Kirby Smart, where they're now becoming the team. They now have won. You don't have Alabama with Saban there anymore, so naturally there will be a moment or two when they keep on winning where there will be that day where people go, okay, I hate Kirby Smart. But right now I don't think a lot of people hate Kirby Smart, but now he is the face of college football. So that takes us into some other contenders. If Dabo could get back to his winning ways at Clemson, he could be the face of college football. And Dabo Swinney has a lot of detractors because he made fun of NIL. He always bashes the transfer portal, and he hasn't embraced it. Dabo is an unlikable head coach. And I wasn't always that way. But the last 3 years, when you failed to adjust, you failed to adapt, and you've been so arrogant about it, I think Dabo Swinney is someone that I don't believe that'll get it back on track to where Clemson was. And I think Dabo has been exposed the last few years and showed that his run had an expiration date on it. But if he could ever get back to that spot, then definitely Dabo could be the face of college football. Now, Deion, we talk about him so, like Colorado football. Who the heck ever talked about them the last 15 years? And Deion goes there, gets hot. That team was miserable down the stretch. They won one game after starting off the year 3-0. But we talked about Deion, Coach Prime. I'm a believer. Just want to make that clear. We talked about Coach Prime each and every week. But I just don't think they'll ever have the national success. Like, the best thing I believe Coach Prime could accomplish in college football at Colorado would win the Big 12. But I don't expect them to win the Big 12 under his tenure. He'd probably have to go to a bigger program. Dan Lanning could be a future face, but he's got to win. Dan Lanning, he's got I told this to him. He's got football psycho in him. And I say that in a positive way. When he's in that locker room and he's like, you talk with your helmet. You talk with your helmet. That's a football psycho that I absolutely love. And I thought the first time I interviewed him, I thought he was dry. I thought he was like a little boring, quite frankly. But then I had him on multiple times after that. And there's a side of Dan Lanning once he gets comfortable with you where you're like, wow, this dude just gets it. And this dude is a phenomenal head football coach. But I know that you're moving into the Big Ten and things are going to pick up. This year you did lose to Kalen DeBoer twice. Could Kalen DeBoer be the next face of college football? I love Kalen DeBoer. You know, he's been on this show countless times. What I think makes Kalen DeBoer so great is he's so unflappable. And you could put him anywhere and he could win. But I don't think Kalen DeBoer has the personality to be the face of college football. And I'll give you two other names. And these two names, like Lincoln Riley could be it. But Lincoln Riley this past year, my oh my, you have Caleb Williams and you can't even come close to sniffing a Pac-12 championship appearance. That's embarrassing. So I got to see more out of Lincoln Riley because Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma was really good. But people thought he was like a god and great. He's never won a college football playoff game. So it's tough for me to say, and I get it, it's the brand of USC, he's a cool-looking coach. It's tough for me to say that Lincoln Riley's going to be the face of college football when he's never won a college football playoff game. I'll tell you who could become the face of college football. Now, I don't think he has the toughness to do this. And he hasn't found the way to win. But he's attracting big names this offseason. He's throwing a little offseason parade, an offseason championship for a coach that has lost faith in his program. But if Ryan Day, and that's a big if Ryan Day or Crying Ryan, if he could find a way to restore Ohio State, he is unlikable enough. And Ohio State fans, you know, love being the villain. That could be a future face of college football. All righty, Stu. Right now, there are 3 coaches with a national championship in college football, with Jim Harbaugh off to the NFL, Nick Saban entering retirement. It's Mac Brown, it's Dabo Swinney, and it's Kirby Smart. Let's do a draft. We'll do 3 teams each. Out of the kindness of my heart, I will let Stuart Kovacs go first. And who is a coach right now in college football that does not have a championship that you think will be first up to be that coach that wins his first championship? Who do you go with?
Yeah, there's a couple candidates I have. First, I will go with Steve Sarkisian at Texas. I think he is building up that program very nicely. Obviously, the move to the SEC is going to be a challenge. It is not the competition of the Big 12, but you know, moving to the expanded college football playoffs, Texas should be in every year, so I don't think that'll be as much of an issue. He has Arch Manning. I think he's going to be a star once he does get on the field, and he's going to absolutely dominate. When you combine Texas with the SEC in recruiting, I like Sarkisian. I think he will win a championship in the next few years.
Good on you, because this was not out of the kindness of my heart. I intentionally had a strategy here. I thought you would take someone else, and you didn't take that person. So I
think I know who we're talking about.
Yeah, I wanted that person off the board. So now I will make my selections. This is a snake draft, correct, Mundo? That's
yes.
how we do it?
You'll get the next 2 picks, yes.
I will go Kalen DeBoer first up. I know it's so tough when you're replacing the guy in Nick Saban, but I don't believe in that saying. You don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaces the guy, or however that saying goes. I don't care. Kalen DeBoer just took Washington to a national championship game. Kalen DeBoer is in the best situation he's ever been at in his career, and he's been a winner everywhere he has gone. So I will take Kalen DeBoer first up on my choice as a coach that doesn't have a championship that will end up winning one currently. Sark was a great one that you did take. You know what? I hate to do this. Nah, I can't do this. I can't. I want to put the pressure back on Stu. I will go with Dan Lanning. The resources at Oregon, some people believe Alabama wanted him and he turned down the Alabama job. I know Alabama fans will tell you that that wasn't the case, but there's been conflicting reporting on that. Dan Lanning's very smart to not go to A&M. You know, I would not have faulted him if he went to Alabama. Could not have faulted him. But he's now getting Dylan Gabriel this year. And look what he did with Bo Nix. And Dylan Gabriel accomplished a lot more going into Oregon than Bo Nix did. So I will take Dan Lanning as my next choice. So I have Kalen DeBoer and Dan Lanning. Stu took Sark right off the board. What say you?
I'm going to take the guy that you were not going to take, Mr. Ryan Day at Ohio State. I know
it's actually a good pick.
He actually has to prove it. Yeah, he has to prove it. They have a lot of guys coming in, obviously, from the transfer portal from Alabama, a lot of those defects.
And the best thing for Ryan Day, Crying Ryan, is that
no Harbaugh left.
No Harbaugh. So now Ryan Day's saying, who's got it better than us? Nobody.
Yeah, so, I mean, he has a lot to prove, but I think he will eventually win one if he does. And if they have a bad year this year, he might not be there. So then the pick is,
Mike
a bad
Vrabel?
pick. Yeah, exactly. Might be someone else.
Yeah, Luke Fickell. Who would you go then as your next pick?
As my next pick, there's a lot of good ones here. I'm actually going to go Brian Kelly, LSU. I just, like you mentioned earlier when we talked about him in Onsides, Offsides, the talent that he's going to be able to get there once he has his footing down, 3, 4, 5 years at the job, I think it's just going to be too good. I've always thought he had, he's a good coach. He just couldn't get the talent at Notre Dame to win a championship. Now at LSU, I think he'll eventually get that talent and win one.
All righty. I could go Mike Norvell here, but I'll hold my nose and I'll go with Lincoln Riley. Even though he's had a disappointing last 2 seasons, I will take Lincoln Riley. So there's the draft. Coaches that have not won a national championship yet in college football that will eventually win one. Stu has Sark, Ryan Day, Brian Kelly. I go Kalen DeBoer, Dan Lanning, and Lincoln Riley. All righty. We'll take a time out here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We have a Pro Football Hall of Famer joining us on the other side. The great Brian Urlacher will join us when we return in 5 minutes on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Brian Urlacher, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, is part of the second annual Invited Celebrity Classic, which features 78 PGA Tour champions and 40 sports and entertainment stars. It's from April 19th through April 21st. Tickets are free. Fans just need to register at www.invitedcelebrityclassic.com, and you can watch live on the Golf Channel all 3 days of competition as well. And now joining us on the Zach Gelb Show is the Pro Football Hall of Famer, Brian Urlacher. Brian, always appreciate the time. How are you?
Doing good, Zach. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So how's your golf game been? I could imagine you probably hit the ball like a country mile, right?
When I hit it good, yes. But when I don't hit it good, which is most of the time, it goes a lot of different directions. But I love the game. It's a blast. You know, it gives me something to do now with all my free time being retired.
You know, you didn't come off to me as like someone when you were playing that was ever nervous. There was always a confidence about you. But golf is such a humbling game. When you participate in something like this, do you get nervous where you just don't want to embarrass yourself with how easy it is to embarrass yourself with golf?
You're exactly right. Golf, I don't think I ever feel like easy. Like it's at ease. It's always hard for me. I'm not sure if all the guys feel like that who play in these tournaments, but it's just there's people out there. You don't want to hit or people watching, obviously, the fans out there. And it is so easy to embarrass yourself because you can hit a fat shot, you can top one. Not a lot of things can go right, but a lot of things can go wrong.
Talking to Brian Urlacher right now. So it is conference championship weekend. Everyone remembers when you punched your ticket to the Super Bowl with the Bears taking care of the Saints all these years later. What are the memories that come back to mind when you look back at that day?
That was a fun day. You know, we were at home at Soldier Field. We got the George House Trophy, which is the founder of the Bears. You know, we got it presented to us at Soldier Field. Just started snowing in the fourth quarter there. It was awesome. And then we lost it 2010 at home. Green Bay beat us, and they went on to beat Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl. So It was a great day. The first one, the second one wasn't that great, but then we would go on to lose to the Colts 2 weeks later. But it's a fun weekend for football. I like watching these games because there's so much meaning to them.
And we all remember how that Super Bowl started with Devin Hester doing what Devin Hester does with the kickoff return. I know he's up for the Hall of Fame. Special teams is always an interesting topic. To me, he's a Hall of Famer. But what would you say if you had to advocate for your former teammate?
I mean, he's the best who's ever done it in his position, right? I mean, no one's ever done it better than him. He changed the game at the kickoff return, punt return. People schemed for him. They had to change their whole game plan, field position-wise, based on what he could do. So he'll get in. I don't know when he will. I don't know how. You look at the list of people that are eligible every year. He's been a candidate or a finalist. It's tough, man, because there's some great. I think Julius Peppers is a finalist this year. Dwight Freeney's a finalist. There's some great players. I'm leaving guys out, obviously, but there's so many great players every year who are on that list, so it's tough to pick.
Yeah, and you could only put so many in from each class. And, a guy like Jerry Kramer, right, who eventually got in, he had to wait.
My class.
Yeah, he had to wait the longest time to get in. And, just as long as you're on the ballot or you still have someone advocating for you, I guess there's always hope.
Yeah, I was so happy Jerry got in with our class, by the way. He's a great man, a great player, obviously, with the Packers back in the day. But, yeah, you just don't know I don't know how the voting works. I don't understand it. I've never understood it. I don't know why some guys go in, some guys don't, and they put them in. They're like, we'll put them in next year because we have to put so-and-so in this year. If you're good enough to go in that year, why shouldn't you be in there? There's a lot of politics involved with that stuff, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Talking to the Pro Football Hall of Famer, Brian Urlacher, I don't know if you still miss playing the game because you've been away from it for so long. But when you think back at your career, you had an iconic career. People say the name Urlacher and everyone knows what you did on a football field. But what are some of the things that still come to mind to you about what you were able to accomplish with your story and your background?
Just where I came from, number one, small town in New Mexico. Had one offer for football in college at the University of New Mexico. Accepted it, obviously. It's my only offer, so I went there. And I just kept getting better every year. I was in college. I busted my butt, got better and better. And then obviously was able to get drafted by the Bears in the first round. And I think everything kind of fell into place there. My first 4 years were really good with Coach Duran there. And then when Lovey got there and put me at the mic, or I was at Mike already, but his cover two allowed me to kind of be an athlete in the middle and kind of run around, do some plays and do some things in the passing game, but also still support the run. But it was great. It was so much fun. I mean, I enjoyed going to work every day my whole career. Not many people get to do that.
And it's also rare because you played your entire career in Chicago. Were you ever close to going somewhere else?
The Bears always got my deal done early. So it never was. And then obviously my last year when they didn't redo my contract, I had the opportunities to go play somewhere else. But I think at that point, no one really wanted me. And I was too damn old anyway. So it worked out pretty good. Retired at the right time. And I was fortunate to stay 13 years with the Bears.
We're all getting ready for the games this weekend. Obviously, there's a big quarterback matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I'm just wondering, you being one of the more iconic defensive players to ever lace him up, who was the toughest quarterback that you ever had to prepare for?
Oh, they're all so good. I played against Rodgers, played against Brady, Manning, Breeze, Vic. I'm sure I'm leaving guys out as well. Phillip Rivers was awesome as well. They're also good. Rodgers gave us fits. We played him twice a year. The thing he did, he always knew what defense you were in before the ball was set. Most of the good ones do. And he was mobile enough to give himself time in the pocket. And he could, if he needed to scramble, he could. But he always gave us fits. Brett did as well. Brett was awesome as well. I love playing against him for those few years I got to. But they're all so damn good. It's hard to pick one guy. Michael Vick was probably my favorite out of all those guys. Just, man, your whole defense had to be ready to play that day because of the running factor, obviously. But he threw the ball great. People don't give him enough credit for how well he threw the football.
And I don't even know how you're supposed to play defense now these days. No one knows what pass interference is.
Man.
I have no clue how you hit the quarterback. And then all the quarterbacks now have legs too, so it makes it so tough.
Yes. Zach, on 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20, there's going to be a defensive penalty.
Yeah.
Whether it's illegal contact, a phantom holding call. If it's a big play in the game, there's going to be a defensive penalty somewhere. Offside or something, it never fails. I'm sitting there watching it with my wife. I'm like, hey, there's going to be a penalty on this play. Just watch. Or 4th and 6 or whatever it is. Always a defensive penalty. It drives me. I feel bad for the DBs. How do you play defense on a guy when you can't touch him after 5 yards? You can barely touch their jerseys before that. It's tough, man. I don't know how they do it.
And not only that, every time there's a rule that favors the defense, they try to change it. Like for a while, I was of the belief that you fumble the ball out of the end zone. Well, you could fumble it at the 1, you get the ball back at the 1, but you fumble it out of the end zone. I thought you should get the ball back, but there's no rules that favor the defense left in that one. So I actually think if you fumble the ball out of the end zone now, it should be a touchback and go to the other team.
It should. Well, that happened last week, right? Was the Chiefs game? I think that's always been that way, but one of the few rules that actually benefits the defense. I think if a quarterback or the runner fumbles on 4th down, the ball's dead there because no one else, unless the guy who fumbles it recovers it past the 1st down, it's dead there. But yeah, we don't have many that go in our favor on the defensive side of the football. But it's amazing how good. That's why it's amazing how good Baltimore's defense is. With all the rules stacked against them, they still every week show up and play good defense.
And could you imagine how many fines you would get? Not that you were a dirty player, but now you hit the quarterback and you can't have all your body weight land on the quarterback. It's just ridiculous.
How about you get a roughing the passer for a sack?
Yeah.
The guy actually has the football, and they call roughing the passer on you when you get a sack.
Crazy.
I don't understand a lot of the things that are happening right now. I understand them because you want player safety for the quarterbacks. I get that. Those are guys that make all the money. But it's very frustrating at sometimes to watch.
We'll talk about Invited Celebrity Classic, the golf tournament, in just a bit. But I'd also be remiss. I know you do great work with Dicka and Jaws for the Gridiron Greats. I go to that party each and every year. Just tell some people what you do to try to help some of your former players or some players of the past that are still trying to figure out life and unfortunately have to deal with some of the nasty part of football.
Yeah, I think most people think about NFL players or guys that played in the NFL and they're rich, they're well off, or they have good benefits. It's not like that for the guys who played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 90s. The benefits are not what they should have been for these guys. And the NFL is not doing anything for them. The NFL makes $10, $11 billion a year, something like that. And those guys that played are pretty much out of the picture for them. They get no benefits. So what Coach Dicka did is he started an organization called Dicka's Gridiron Greats. And he just tries to raise money to give back to those guys who don't have a lot right now, whether it's insurance, medical bills, roofing, housing, whatever it is, food. Just trying to give them a little bit of bump. And the party is February 8th at the M Resort in Vegas for the Super Bowl. Last year was the first time I went. It was awesome. Jaws and I co-hosted because Coach Dick is, I think, he's staying down in Florida this year again. But it's a great. I was shocked how many former players and current players.
It's a great event.
Showed up to the event. I'd never been, so I didn't know. But I was pleasantly surprised at how many guys showed up to support Coach Dick's organization there. Was really awesome.
Yeah, and I know Mark Singleton and Rudolph Foods and Southern Recipes very well.
Yes, he's awesome. He's a good guy. I like Mark.
Yeah, I've been going there ever since, I think, 2013 or 2014, whenever the Super Bowl was in New Orleans, and it is all class all the way. All righty, Brian Urlacher, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, here with us. The biggest question in Chicago right now, they have the number 1 overall pick. Should they trade Justin Fields and draft a quarterback like Caleb Williams? What would you do if you were running the Bears?
I would have drafted C.J. Stroud last year. They had the number 1 pick last year. I know everyone was high on Bryce Young, but you look, everyone always talks about the guy. Like they said, the Bears passed up on Deshaun Watson when they took Mitch Trubisky. Well, you can say the same thing last year. They passed up on C.J. Stroud as well. They traded that pick. Could have taken him. But, it's not good to have the number 1 pick 2 years in a row. Obviously, this year they got it because of trade with Carolina. But I think they have to take Caleb. I don't think there's any way around it this year. If you don't take him, it turns out to be great. But having said that, Justin Fields played good at the end of the season last year as well. It's tough. Their defense really played good. I think the second half of the season, I don't watch a lot of their games, but they played better in the second half. But I think if Caleb's available there, you have to take him.
And I thought they played well, like you said, down the stretch. So there's a reason to make the case to keep a Fields, right? Bringing back Matt Eberflus as head coach. But there was a lot of buzz that maybe they should have taken a swing at Jim Harbaugh. Do you think that was a mistake that they didn't pursue Harbaugh this offseason?
Well, the Bears couldn't pay him what he's going to be paid. They would, but they won't, if that makes sense. They won't pay him what he probably deserves or what the Chargers paid him. So that was probably never on their radar. I like what Eberflus did. He's a defensive head coach and they play good defense. And to your point earlier about Justin Fields being the quarterback, if you're asking in year 3 if he's still the guy, he's probably not the guy. If you've given him 3 years and you don't know the answer to that question, then he's probably not the guy. And he played better last year. I'll give him that. But I just don't think he's going to be the guy going forward for them.
All righty. Before we let you run, always appreciate you to jump on board with us. Tell us once again what you're doing with this big golf tournament coming up.
Oh, yeah. The Invited Charity Celebrity Classic. It's in Dallas at Las Colinas. great event. This will be the third year we've had it down there. Hard golf course. It's just hard for me. We play with the Champions Tour players. We have the celebrity, side of it as well. I think the purse for the celebrities is like $500,000, a little more for the Champions Tour guy. Yeah, you got some Hall of Famers in there from golf, obviously, and then you have quite a few Hall of Famers as well from baseball, football, basketball. It's cool. It's a fun week. They do a good job. They have a lot of money back for charity in the Dallas area as well. But it's a fun event. We had pretty good crowd turnout the last couple of years as well, so it's been a lot of fun.
And once again, tickets are free. Fans just need to register at www.invitedcelebrityclassic.com. You can also watch it live on the Golf Channel all 3 days of competition, April 19th to the 21st. Brian, I'll see you in Vegas. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, Zach. Take care, man. See you.
There you go. Brian Urlacher, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, joining us on CBS Sports Radio. So Bears legend, one of the greatest Chicago Bears player of all time. He thinks that the team needs to move on from Justin Fields, even though he played well down the stretch, and draft Caleb Williams with the #1 overall pick. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief. But first up, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, I'm actually concerned about this guy. And the reason why I'm concerned about
red shirt?
You're wearing a red shirt. I'm just trying to think
I don't know
what
anything.
coach is there that's going to get fired or is going to retire, because every time you wear a certain shirt color recently, something happens with that team.
The Falcons, although red is not their dominant color anymore, that made their hire yesterday. So
now, hold on. Stu actually just said something in my ear. Go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, that's the color of Liverpool, whose manager decided that he is going to hang it up after this season.
I didn't have the shirt with that in mind today. I gotta
Strikes
say that.
again. Now, some people believe Mike Florio. I even seen Adam Schefter has thrown this out there. Craig Carden, our former co-worker, that Andy Reid, this could be it for the big fella this year. So maybe Ack is predicting the Ravens beat the Chiefs, and then Andy Reid's going to eat a bunch of cheeseburgers in retirement.
There you go.
I'm going to assume that's not the way that you're predicting.
No.
I think Andy Reid's coming back too. All righty, News Brief next. Update time first. Here's the Ack Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the 49ers have a rich tradition, but they came up short in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. Then again, last year in the conference title game. Now they're back in the same spot a year later, looking to earn a chance to add to their trophy case. And will host the Lions in the NFC Championship Sunday. Brock Purdy was injured in last year's penultimate game of the season. Though he had the best passer rating, he remains a polarizing player and didn't have the best game a week ago. But Purdy said this week he starts fresh.
It doesn't matter if you play good or bad. Like, you can't, I don't think, take really any of that with you the next week. It's a new game. It's a new scheme. It's a new environment. Everything about it is new. So it's almost like you got to clean the slate. Learn from the mistakes, build off of, the good things that you've done, but it's going to be it's a new game.
The Lions are one of 4 franchises that have never won the big game. They had never even have gotten that far as well. No word on the status of Deebo Samuel. Chiefs guard Joe Thuney is out for Sunday and the AFC Championship game when the Chiefs take on the Ravens in Baltimore. Running back Isaiah Pacheco is questionable. Mark Andrews will play coming off injured reserve. I'm Rich Ackerman.
We are CBS Sports Radio, and our Twitter handle is @CBS Sports Radio. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Dan Campbell personified who he is as the coach of the Lions, where he's aggressive and he's going to do things that are unconventional. And Goff, who has been a solid quarterback but has not got universally praise, and people just thought he was a throw-in in that Stafford deal for the Lions to go snag another first-round pick to take on the contract of Jared Goff. He has been better than what anyone could have dreamt about for the Detroit Lions.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Rocco DeSangro, a college classmate of mine who now covers the Baltimore Ravens for Fox Baltimore. He says no injury designation for Mark Andrews, who was activated off injury reserve yesterday. And here is some big news as well. Marlon Humphrey, calf, who was a full participant for the first time since the return to practice and is being listed as questionable for Sunday's AFC Championship game. On the other side, Adam Schefter, Shefty, as his friends call him, the great NFL reporter for ESPN. He is saying that the Chiefs have ruled out Joe Thuney from the game. Their great interior offensive linemen, Isaiah Pacheco, Willie Gay, and Kadarius Toney are listed as questionable for Sunday's AFC Championship game. All righty, without further ado, I'm not talking about Freddie Adu. Wow, 2 soccer references on this show today. I did not anticipate this one. Let's update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty, let's start it off with Kyle Shanahan. He had a little exchange with a reporter regarding fans.
Man, how important is the 12th man going to be on Sunday?
What's that?
The 12th man, how important is the 12th man going to be on Sunday?
We don't call him the 12th man here. But our crowd's very important.
So I've been to some of these conference championship weekend press conferences where you have your local beat reporters and then all the national media and every Tom, Dick, and Harry goes there that week. So you sometimes get some bizarre questions. I don't know who the reporter was, whether it was a local reporter or a national reporter, but you usually get some bizarre questions just asking how important the fans are going to be. Like, what's the purpose of that? Like, what are you trying to write? Like, what soundbite are you trying to get? I'm not saying the environment and the atmosphere doesn't matter. That's pretty much a lame question, if you ask me. And what does Shanahan call them? Oh, he doesn't call them the 12th man because of the whole Seahawks embracing the 12th man, and they retired, I'm pretty sure, the jersey number 12 to honor their fans. So maybe there's a little NFC West fighting, inner fighting there between Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the 49ers, and then having fun with the Seattle Seahawks. Here is Kyle Shanahan on facing Jared Goff on Sunday's NFC title game.
I think he's showing some of the stuff that he did in L.A. I mean, you go with Jared, I mean, he built for a number of years, especially, I think 17, 18, really 18. I mean, he played at MVP type level.
So I think the way we talk about Jared Goff is a very intriguing one, because Jared Goff was a throw-in, or a lot of people thought, including yours truly, that he was a throw-in in that trade for Matthew Stafford. And the main coup for the Detroit Lions were the 2 first-round picks that they ended up getting. One that they got in return for Stafford. The other one was taking on the contract of Jared Goff. Now, they have not officially extended Jared Goff, but he's in line to be their quarterback for the foreseeable future. Heck, they even drafted Hendon Hooker. Now, it wasn't in the first round, but he had first-round potential if he didn't tear up his knee towards the end in Tennessee. But that's someone in Jared Goff that he has proven. I don't think he has a ceiling of greatness. I don't think he has a ceiling of ever being elite. And we already made that joke when Joe Flacco joined us earlier. But he's a good quarterback. Like, there is a lot of quarterbacks in this league that you wouldn't want to have over Jared Goff. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks you say, nope, when you get asked Jared Goff or that quarterback. And I'm not saying that he'll ever be a top 5 quarterback. He is a borderline top 10 quarterback in this league, but he got to a Super Bowl in LA, and now he's 60 minutes away from getting to a Super Bowl with the Detroit Lions. And I'll take it a step further. Outside of Lamar Jackson, I don't think there's an individual player that I'm rooting more for this weekend than Jared Goff. It would be really damn cool if Jared Goff can not only get to a Super Bowl, but then do the unthinkable, and that is deliver a Lombardi trophy to the Detroit Lions fans. All righty, we'll keep it moving. Let's go to Brock Purdy. He hopes Deebo Samuel can play on Sunday.
He's probably the best playmaker in this league. You get the ball in his hands, he can do whatever he wants. Makes guys miss, breaks tackles. He's strong, he's tough, he's got grit, and we all feed off it. So Debo definitely gives us some juice and energy and momentum on our offense. And, I mean, if he's not playing, obviously that's tough on us, but we'll have guys to be able to play as well that can create that as well. So, but, yeah, if you're asking me, we'd love for Debo to play.
I would absolutely be shocked, like stunned, if Debo Samuel isn't playing on Sunday. He will give it a go, and I saw he was doing some running yesterday. But it ultimately comes down to how effective can he be. He's not the best playmaker in the NFL. You know, you could say he's not the best on his team. That's Christian McCaffrey. But Debo is the second most important player on the San Francisco 49ers. Number one, at least on their offense I'm talking. Number one is Run CMC with Christian McCaffrey. The number two is Debo Samuel. But the one time the 49ers did look human for a long stretch this year, Debo Samuel did miss a few games, and that's when they had their 3-game losing streak. Let's go to Patrick Mahomes. He has high praise for Lamar Jackson's evolution as a quarterback.
I think the biggest thing that you like to see in other quarterbacks is how they improve every single year. And obviously, everybody talked about his running, but you can see how he's developed as a passer, throwing from within the pocket, arm angles, making the accurate throw in big situations and big moments. And that's what the great quarterbacks do. And he continues to get better and better every single year.
He's a stud. Unanimous MVP, about to win another MVP. The only thing that is missing from Lamar Jackson's trophy case is the Lombardi Trophy. And until he gets that title, you will have a contingent of people that will say, he's overrated. There's nothing you could do to fix the person that says he's overrated. Or he's never going to win a Super Bowl. I don't see why there isn't a reason why Lamar Jackson can't win a Super Bowl. And right now, they're the best team in the league. So if he wins, everyone that says he can't win a Super Bowl shuts up. If he loses, those people will be heard louder than ever. Let's go to Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs, Stone Cold Jones. And he says the Ravens present a unique challenge.
You got the finesse teams, you got the downhill running teams, and then you got the Baltimore Ravens, who can do a little bit of both. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball. So they got weapons on the outside, but they also got a dominant offensive line who can just run the ball.
The Ravens just have it. Like, I talked to Steve Young before the season, and he said about Brock Purdy that Brock Purdy just has a force about him. Like, he has the force. The force is with him. I kind of think that's the same way with the Ravens. Like, we know that Lamar Jackson's great. We know Patrick Queen's great. We know Roquan Smith is great. They have a lot of great defensive players. But on offense, their only great player is Lamar Jackson. Now, you have other really good players. You have also other really, 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 really good players. But there's just something about that team chemistry. And that team, and maybe the biggest growth Lamar has made, has been a leader. Like, you hear the new guy, like Odell Beckham won a Super Bowl. He said this is the best team chemistry he's ever been around. This is the best team he's ever been on. Odell has won a Super Bowl with the LA Rams that had one of the greatest defensive players of all time, a criminally underrated quarterback in Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, who's in the midst of a Triple Crown season, and that's what Odell said. There's just something about them where they may not have the best roster, but what they have, it just fits, it works, and it works at an elite level. Here is the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans, in Brian Callahan. He gives his thoughts on his new quarterback, and a guy that likes to put mayo in his coffee, and he does not unpeel his bananas. That is Will Levis.
I really enjoy getting to know him. I can't wait to get to work with him. He's got a lot of really special physical talents that I'm excited to go see if we can make better. And everything about him so far has been fantastic, and I'm excited to get to go further down into it.
So I don't think, and I think this is the part that gets lost in it, Mike Vrabel didn't want to coach that team anymore. I know he got fired, but I don't think he wanted to be there anymore, and he realized, wow, we're really going through a rebuild where Derrick Henry's on his way out, Ryan Tannehill's on his way out. I like Will Levis, right? I'm sure Vrabel is fine with Will Levis, but that's a roster that does not have a lot of talent. And I do believe that in Vrabel's mind, he wanted to go back to New England and go somewhere where he was comfortable knowing Robert Kraft, where he played his football and won a bunch of championships. But then I guess we didn't know about this clause in Gerard Mayo's contract where he was the coach in waiting in New England. So I don't know if that was a miscalculated play by Vrabel, but I know everyone's talking about Belichick not getting a job. You have the Commanders and Seahawks left. We all think Ben Johnson, the offense coordinator for the Lions, going to get the Commanders gig. I don't see why the Seahawks wouldn't hire Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is basically just a younger Pete Carroll, especially with the energy that Mike Vrabel has. So I would hire Mike Vrabel if I was Seattle, but if they don't, you're going to go with this hiring cycle where no one picked up Pete Carroll, no one picked up Bill Belichick, and no one picked up Mike Vrabel. So considering those circumstances, Tennessee didn't upgrade at their head coach, but if Vrabel didn't want to be there, you're not going to continue to employ him. So you bring in a young offensive-minded coach and Brian Callahan, who comes from a football family that's been around it a lot, and you're going to try to get the most out of Will Levis, but you got to build up the rest of that roster. Like their GM, I think, is more important than the head coach for the next 2 years because that roster just simply does not have a lot of talent. Like Vrabel got so much out of that roster. He got him a number 1 seed one year. He got them to an AFC title game, and it was not a well-rounded, talented team. And then finally, let's go to C.J. Gardner-Johnson of the Detroit Lions. And you got to remember, and I think no one could speak better about this than myself because I got caught up in this controversy. After the Eagles beat the 49ers, Debo went to the Super Bowl and talked crap about the Eagles and basically called their secondary garbage. Last year, C.J. Gardner-Johnson was on the Eagles. So Debo and C.J. Gardner-Johnson has had a back and forth before. Now C.J. Gardner-Johnson's on the Lions. They go up against the 49ers this weekend in the NFC title game. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson has a message for Debo Samuel.
Another thing, bro, listen, don't be friendly when you see me. Because you be so flashy. You better hope, bro. You better hope all that talking you be doing when we see y'all, wherever around it may be. Because I can guard you. You can't run routes. You're a running back. You're a running back. You know, I ain't going to sit here and play with you, little boy. Just because you got a little bag, people gave you a little clout, man, you ain't nothing, bro. Stop playing.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson's a good football player, don't get me wrong. But the way he talks, you would think he believes he's like the greatest defensive back, the greatest safety of all time. You know, Debo Samuel's a much better football player than you, and I get it. When someone talks negatively about you, you got to respond and you got to take care of your own business. But I kind of hope Debo does play this weekend and he's effective because I want to see the jawing that goes on between C.J. Gardner-Johnson and then also Debo Samuel. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Who has the most pressure to win it all this year in the NFL? Is it Lamar Jackson? Is it the San Francisco 49ers? We'll discuss when we come on back in 5 minutes right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Ryan Horvath going to join us 25 minutes from now. We got NFL picks. We'll see if I can continue my hot streak.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go. Football Friday. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. It's kind of crazy. This is the second to last Football Friday of the season. You know, next week doesn't really count as a Football Friday because, like, what are we going to get you set for the Pro Bowl? Like, no. Are we going to get you set for the Super Bowl next week? Not really. Like, you don't have a game of actual importance. So we do have Conference Championship weekend, obviously, on Sunday. I'll be in Baltimore for the Ravens and the Chiefs. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter for all the behind-the-scenes access at Zach Gelb, ZachGelb. And then after that, you got the Lions going to Santa Clara to go up against the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll have Ryan Horvat join us coming up in about 20 minutes from now. We'll do some NFL picks. I kicked Horvat's ass last week. I think he went 0-4, and I went 3-1. We went head-to-head in 3 games, and the one game we agreed on, we both got wrong, picking the Buffalo Bills. So you can always give us a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, if you want to chime in on conference championship weekend. And when you take a glance at the games this weekend, the teams that are under the most pressure, it's the Ravens, and then it's obviously the San Francisco 49ers. You look at this matchup on both sides, the AFC and the NFC. The Chiefs lose this game. I know there will be people that will be like, oh, wasted opportunity for the Chiefs, but it's really not. This Chiefs team this year, who are they throwing the ball to? I know Travis Kelce found the fountain of youth last week, and he got the 2 touchdowns, and planet players make planet plays, and big-time players make big-time plays, and that's what Kelce did, even though this has not been a successful season for him. It's been successful off the field. Hey, you're going home with Taylor Swift. You have now embraced yourself in the Swiftie culture, which I guess we have as well, because we were on Entertainment Tonight last night as they did a piece about our interview with Drew Tranquill of the Kansas City Chiefs, where Drew Tranquill said maybe Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are in love. It seems like maybe they are actually in love. So that thing went viral. And also the DJ plays Taylor Swift songs at practice, and the guys kind of poke fun a little bit at Travis Kelce. But it is kind of wild that now when you go into conference championship weekend, like Stu, I know you're a Swiftie, so this is not actually a fair question to probably ask you because you could be biased here. But in your opinion, what's the biggest story of conference championship weekend? As we enter conference championship weekend, I think the 4 stories that are on the table: Lamar's quest to try to go win his first Super Bowl. Then you have this, like in no order, the city of Detroit looking to get to the Super Bowl. And it's just crazy that they're here. You then have the Shanahan factor, where he has not won a Super Bowl as a head coach. And, right, he has Brock Purdy, who a lot of people view as a game manager. I don't care what you call him. You keep on winning. I don't give a rat's ass what you call him. And then it's the continuation of the greatness of the Kansas City Chiefs as they start to become a dynasty, just needed one more Super Bowl. But you know that the most content and the things that will produce the most views this weekend has nothing to do with anything on the field. It's going to be Taylor Swift walking into that stadium in Baltimore, sitting in the luxury box with, I'm assuming, right, Jason Kelce, Donna Kelce. I'm sure Kylie Kelce will be there as well. Ed Kelce is always a forgotten guy here. I saw some video of Ed Kelce changing the channels in the luxury box, and he looked like everyone's dad. When they get a little bit older, they get a little bit tired, and they're flipping channels. He was just doing it in front of like 70,000 people at a football game in Buffalo. But that storyline of Taylor Swift, whether you like it or not, it's been the biggest story of the NFL this year, which is nuts with how popular the NFL is. And sometimes, like, I'm in my isolated world, right, where football is king. Nothing tops the NFL. They always have like 48 of the top 50 TV programs of the year, all that stuff, whatever the numbers are. But the biggest story of this NFL season so far, in a crazy way, has been this relationship and this romance with Taylor Swift and also with Travis Kelce. It's wild. It really is.
It's crazy. I do think that's the biggest storyline. That's what most people are going to clamor to. I mean, in a football sense, I think it's definitely the Ravens' quest and getting Lamar over the hump. But it's
from a football standpoint. Let me ask you this:
Yeah,
do you think the bigger storyline here, if let's just say it's between the Ravens and it's between the 49ers?
Yeah,
what's the biggest storyline? Shanahan trying to get that ring or Lamar trying to get that ring?
I think it's Lamar.
I agree. Players usually win out over coaches.
Yeah, players over coaches, quarterback over coach. And I think you can, if Shanahan wants to, he could, not that he will make that case himself, but people will say, oh, he doesn't have a quarterback, and he's never really had that quarterback. Now, he drafted a quarterback high. That didn't work out.
Yeah, he's on the Cowboys.
Yeah, but, I mean, for Lamar, it's going to be, the narrative, what has been that he can't, get over the top, and that's going to probably continue if he doesn't win when they have the number 1 seed and have the home field.
Yeah, so you're probably right. I would say from an individual standpoint, and I think it changes from week to week, but overall from a whole, from these next 2 games, assuming Lamar gets the Super Bowl, and if he doesn't, it's the thing that we're going to be probably talking about right off the gate right out of the gate on Monday when we get in there at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on the Zach Gelb Show. I think from an individual standpoint, there's no individual in the NFL with more pressure on them right now than Lamar Jackson. But would you agree with this? The team with the most pressure is actually the San Francisco 49ers. Now, you can make a case you don't know when the Ravens will be back here again. Because the last 2 years, right, Lamar was hurt, now he's healthy, and they look like the best team in football. They've been the best team in football. They defeated, and not only defeated, but they beat the crap out of the San Francisco 49ers. But even though Lamar is the most individual person in football with the most pressure on him, I think the team factor is the 49ers, even with losing and getting embarrassed by the Ravens, because of the fact that they've been knocking on this door the last few years. And you don't want to be one of those teams that many people have anointed them the best team in the league or one of the best teams in the league, that then you turn out to be one of the best teams in the league that never got the job done. And they've been to a few NFC title games. They won one NFC championship. They had a 10-point lead in January or February of 2020, right before the world basically just shut down for a while. And they had a 10-point lead with 7.5 to play, and they choked. And look at the storylines from that. You go from Jimmy G to Trey Lance, then back to Jimmy G, then the emergence of Purdy. They don't win this year. Isn't it similar to Buffalo? Well, then you'll start to say, well, when will they win? And I think we got to be fair there. Like everyone last week said, the Bills, if they can't beat Kansas City now, they'll never beat Kansas City. Well, if the Niners can't win a Super Bowl this year, when are they going to win a Super Bowl? And I get it, they lost to the Ravens, but how many times people give me that old adage, it's tough to beat a team twice in a season? So if you get the Ravens again, in theory, you should be able to split when you go up against the 49ers. So from an individual standpoint, I will say Lamar is the most pressure on him. From a team standpoint, I don't think there's any team with more pressure on them, even knowing that the Ravens are the best team, than the San Francisco 49ers. And could you have imagined last week, let's just say the 49ers didn't win that game and Brock Purdy didn't come alive in the fourth quarter? We would have had a week where the Bills blew another opportunity to take down Kansas City, but that wouldn't have been the biggest story. Maybe we would have talked about it first on Monday because the game happened on Sunday, but the biggest story out of last week would have been the Packers with Jordan Love taking care of business against the 49ers, because no one, I plus the points with the Packers. No one, though, was picking the Green Bay Packers to win that game. And it would have been another choke job by Kyle Shanahan. All righty. I'm probably going to regret doing this, but I'm looking at a moment for entertainment potentially. And sometimes when you give a mouse a cookie, they ask for a glass of milk. And that's the perfect book that would describe the man that is running the board today in Jack Stern. But Jack Stern is a very emotional man. And I saw some emotions from him. It's good. At least he's not yawning on this show today. There's some other shows that he may be yawning and then he gets yelled at. And you shouldn't be yawning when any of the shows are here on CBS Sports Radio, because 24/7, we provide a very entertaining lineup. But I saw out of the corner of my eye, Jack Stern looking visibly upset when I said the biggest storyline from the NFL this season is Taylor Swift. So I'm sure Jack Stern is now going to basically sound like Tony Dungy did last week. Why are you so annoyed? You are young, right? You're supposed to be fun. Why are you so annoyed with Taylor Swift?
I just feel like there's too much hype around this one woman. I mean, she's very attractive. She's beautiful. She's a fantastic singer. She's one of the best performers out there.
She's an icon.
But at the end of the day, she is a human being. Maybe it's just me inside saying nobody should be worshipped. I don't care if you're the president, a celebrity, or whatever. But it's like...
As Jack tries to get worshipped every day around here. What are you talking about, you hypocrite?
Yeah, I know. I am a hypocrite. Well, you know how it goes. It's do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yes.
Especially when I'm talking.
So you're more just so in awe that there could be this much attention about one person.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how are you getting so excited about one singular individual? She's not curing cancer. She's not making rocket ships and taking us to outer space.
She's creating, great music.
She's doing great things.
So do you not like Taylor Swift?
I'm more of a Miley Cyrus fan. I think Miley's a little bit more humble. She shows her personality.
Hold on. Stop talking for a second.
Okay.
The views of Jack Stern do not reflect the views of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I just want to be crystal clear about that. I like Miley Cyrus. I actually, 2 Super Bowls ago, went to, it was a Green Day concert with Miley Cyrus. I thought Miley Cyrus actually would have been the finishing act there. She opened up for Green Day. I love Green Day, and it was a phenomenal concert. But I know the power of the Swifties. I can't tell you how many people that I haven't talked to in years this week have reached out to me or have slid into my DMs. I've been perusing Twitter. I've been perusing TikTok. All the social media platforms this week have been talking about our interview with Drew Tranquil, just talking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. So it shows you the power of the Swifties. Now, I'm going to strike what he just said from the record. I think that's the term. We're going to strike that from the record in the court term. You're allowed to have that opinion. That's fine. I just don't want it to infiltrate the Swifties and then have them going after you. Actually, that would actually be pretty fun, Stu. We could kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. We could have the Swifties team up with us and then also take out Jack Stern.
Ooh, that's pretty good. That's not too bad. I like that.
Yeah, that would be fun. So maybe we should let you keep on talking a little bit more.
I don't need more enemies around here, okay? Yes. I'm trying to make friends and be friendly.
The haters going to hate, and they like to hate Jack Stern. All right, that's a Taylor Swift song. But I will agree with you on one thing, Jack, and that's a sentence I never thought I would say on CBS Sports Radio. I will agree with one thing, Jack. It is amazing to me how she lives in New York City. Her apartment, just judging off the videos, has to be 15 blocks or less from where I live in New York City. Just seeing like some of the familiar sights and places when she walks out of her apartment, and some of it looks familiar. It is crazy how you would stand outside someone's personal home, right? Like their personal space, and try to have an interaction with them. Or like she can't even walk to her car without thousands of fans lining up outside of her home. So, like, that's the one part to me that is very bizarre. But I understand why people love her, because she's talented, she's sweet, and she's awesome. And she's a mega star, and she is an absolute icon. Now, you know what I'm going to try to do on Sunday? I'm covering this game. I got to find out where the entrance is. Now, this is going to be hypocritical when Taylor Swift walks into the stadium, because it would be pretty cool to get some content of her walking into the stadium. And, I know Jason Kelce a little bit, from my time covered in Philadelphia. Maybe Jason sees me, recognizes me, and then invites me up into the luxury box to drink a cold one with him. Now, I don't think I'll be taking off my shirt, but if Jason Kelce asked me to take off my shirt, I'd probably have to do it. Oh, that would be some crazy, crazy views. Some people do say, Stu, I have a body that resembles Dave Canales, the new head football coach of the Carolina Panthers. Now, we all know I look nothing like Dave Canales, and Dave Canales is actually a really good-looking guy. But I do a weekly spot on WFNZ in Charlotte on Football Fridays with Mac and Bone, one of the best morning shows in the country, and WFNZ is a powerhouse of a radio station. It is funny that one of the biggest things on their show when talking about the Panthers hiring Dave Canales was just his looks and how good-looking of a guy he is. So if you want to see me go toe-to-toe with Dave Canales, just have me and Jason Kelce standing side by side, chugging some brews this upcoming weekend, as we see what's going to play out in the AFC and NFC championship game. So the individual with the most pressure this weekend is Lamar. The team with the most pressure is the San Francisco 49ers. What say you? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We will take a break. Maybe I should just go with how I was saying this guy's name, Ryan Horvat, because he was better at picking games when I called him that instead of last week. I don't know what happened. I went 3-1. We won't even mention what Horvat did. I'll let him speak for himself when he joins us 5 minutes from now, right now on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. I thought I was going to go 4-0 last week. I thought I was. I also think I'm going to go 4-0 each and every week. That's just what happens when you pick games. But we will take a 3-1 week. And now joining us, the host of BetMGM Tonight via BetQL, and that is Ryan Horvat here with us on CBS Sports Radio. Ryan, what's shaking?
Not too much, Zach. I have to come on here and defend myself. It was a rough week last week against the spread, but hey, we had some player props. Mike Evans, most receiving yards Baker Mayfield, most passing yards. So it wasn't even a losing weekend, and I have to come on here on my final appearance on a Football Friday and defend myself.
Yeah, I was just kind of teasing with you. You know, blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. I don't know what you are on the season. I know I'm 31, 27, and 2, which is pretty damn good. I didn't know I was doing that well. I know you joined us halfway through, but there's been a lot of winning weeks for Ryan Horvat. He is still one of the preeminent betting voices when it happens inside the Odyssey umbrella of all the stations that we do have. So I will still give you your praise. But I'm telling you, you get on me for not knowing how to pronounce your name or your family not even knowing how to pronounce your names. This could be the curse of the Horvat, and you may never win a game again.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that, but I will make up the losing week. Hopefully this week with some player props, some sides, some totals. But in 2 weeks, Super Bowl week, if you're out in Las Vegas, I'll buy you a couple drinks. Maybe I'll even buy you a nice dinner. Maybe I'll buy you
Oh, you're going to Vegas?
I am. I'll be there for the entire week.
Well, you don't have to buy me dinner. Let's link up, though, because I know that we've known each other for years, but I've never met you in person. Let's have a drink or two, and we'll get dinner one night. That would be awesome. That would be fun. Let's definitely do that.
Let's do it. Really quick question for you on your own show. Are you a filet guy? Do you like the tomahawk? What kind of steak do you like if you're going out?
We actually went out for a steak dinner the other night, and we got a porterhouse that we split between 3 people, which was fantastic. I love filet, but I usually like when my father cooks filet. I feel like sometimes when you go out to a restaurant, like just getting the filet, it sometimes comes out like a little bit smaller. There's better options, I think, when ordering steak at a restaurant. Filet's not my go-to, but I do enjoy filet mignon. You want to get me a ribeye, you want to get me a porterhouse, a tomahawk. You know, you put steak in front of me, I'm not saying no. Put it that way.
We'll do a couple ribeyes then, and we'll get a couple drinks. I'm jealous. I've never met your dad, but man, I mean, like everything that you put online on social media looks delicious, man. I'm jealous.
I'm actually annoyed. My sister's in town. That's not why I'm annoyed, to be clear. My sister and my niece are in town, and we're going out for dinner tonight. And I was kind of trying to push, why don't we just have Dad cook? Like, let's have Bob Gelb, Chef Boomer, as we call him, let him cook, because the restaurant we're going to is good, and I like going out to eat, but there's nothing like a home-cooked meal, especially when the person cooking is an elite chef.
Yeah, so true. That is so true, man. I'm with you. I love going out to eat, especially, though, if you're doing steaks. I mean, going back to the filet thing, I would rather just make them myself, and yeah, that's the way to do it.
I have breaking news for you.
Okay.
What do you think that is breaking news has to do with the NFL? Do you think it's coaching or do you think it's player related?
I'm going to go it's coaching. I've been having a really good day. The one thing that I do not want for my football team, for my organization, would be the Green Bay Packers to make the hire of Brandon Staley as defensive coordinator. I'm guessing that's probably going to be the breaking news you're going to hit me with here.
No, it is not. And I will say, I don't think Brandon Staley, nothing against yoga. I like yoga. But doing the yoga poses in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, I don't see that as a fit in Green Bay. He could be the next offensive coordinator, but I don't see it as a fit. It's from Adam Schefter. Kyle Shanahan just said that 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel is off the injury report and will play Sunday's NFC Championship game up against the Detroit Lions. So I don't think anyone's surprised by this. I always thought that we believed that Deebo was going to play in the game. But the question just becomes how effective he is. But the fact that he's off the injury report in its entirety makes me think that this shoulder's not as big of a deal as the way that it was maybe portrayed this week.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we saw the film yesterday, we saw it come up on social media. He was running routes and he looked okay, but it was a shoulder injury. So obviously, there was really no concern with the way that he was moving. But yeah, and that's why we're seeing a little bit of an adjustment here. I mean, we saw the 6.5s disappear. The spread's now 7. I'm wondering if we do get to 7.5. I would assume that Deebo's only worth half of a point to the market because he's a wide receiver, but he's so important in that offense, especially when you're going against a team that's going to play a bunch of zone defense. He's your zone beater, him and George Kittle. And the total as well went from 50 all the way up to 51.5. And I still like the over in that game, but it was worth 1.5, it looks like, to the total.
All right, we'll get to the picks in just a second. By the way, you're already getting me in trouble. My sister just texted me. She goes, so rude. Don't talk smack about us. I made them meatballs the other night. And I just responded back while you were giving such an eloquent answer, Ryan Horvat. That was positive, you dolt. Like, seriously, I gave a positive compliment. Just the way that I was trying to say it. At first, it didn't sound right, so I clarified myself. But what was so... You could never win. You could... With family, I am the nicest person. I'm beloved by everyone in my family. And when you are Switzerland and you play peacemaker between everyone in the family, everyone just tries to throw it back in your face eventually. It's amazing.
Yeah. What you were saying was you didn't want to go out to dinner. You wanted to have the meal at home so you could communicate better. You could have a better conversation, catch up. You go out, it's harder to pay attention to your company. So I knew what you were doing there.
Yeah, right? All righty. Let's cue up some music here, some NFL music, and this is very sad. It's the final Football Friday with Ryan Horvat because we'll be too busy at the Super Bowl. He'll be too busy at the Super Bowl, and we won't have him on that Football Friday. So let's start with the Chiefs and the Ravens. I thought earlier in this week when I was making my line of the game, I thought the Ravens were going to win this game by 4 points. And then Vegas came out with the spread of 3.5 in favor of Baltimore, and it ended up going up to 4 points. So that's right where I think this game is going to be. So I have went from going that this is going to be like a 4-point game to increasing that ante a little bit. I will take the Ravens winning the game, and they will cover the spread. Baltimore laying the 4. Give me the Ravens by a final score of 27-21 over the Kansas City. How about those Chiefs? Horvat, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the fact that the spread went from 3.5 to 4 is very telling. It's almost like they're daring you to take the points with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I know he picked up his first road win last week, but I don't like this matchup against Baltimore. I mean, I know Lamar Jackson's in about a week, he's going to be named NFL MVP, which I did give out, by the way. But it's the defense, man, for Baltimore. They're so damn good. And I really like this matchup for Lamar. So I'm with you. I bet the Ravens. I actually bet the Ravens in the first half. I bet the Ravens full game. And I took the under in the game. But there's a player prop I like just as much as the side. I'll throw that out there really quick for my bad week last week. Lamar Jackson, I bet this 57.5. We're in the low 60s. I like his rushing yards. Kansas City's run defense, 26th in EPA per rush, 28th in success rate on zone read and design quarterback rushes. They really struggle to defend the quarterback runs. And Lamar Jackson's averaging almost 6 yards per carry on runs off tackle or outside the tackles, which is 4th in the NFL. He's also forced the most missed tackles on quarterback scrambles, which is the most efficient play in all of football. So I think this is going to be a big game for Lamar. I think he beats Patrick Mahomes. I like the Ravens on the money line. I like the Ravens to cover the spread, and I like Lamar's rushing total over and the under in the game as well.
Oh, so you like the under in the game. So I had the over of 27-21. What is your score, just wondering?
I'll go here. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game as well. I'm going to go, you know what? I'll go Baltimore 20. I'll go KC 16 because I need him to cover the number. Actually, you know what? Dang, man.
That's 4.
I'm going to have to go. Yeah. Oh, man. My score. Give me let's go 21-13. I think the Ravens.
13.
Yeah, okay. I think the Ravens bring this one home and they win by more than a touchdown.
So I'm actually going to this game, and I know because I'm driving down, the weather's supposed to be horrible, rain.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago when Kansas City had that negative degree game with the minus 30 wind chill, everyone looked at that. They're like, oh, Kansas City's receivers, they can catch the ball when it's 70 and sunny. How are they going to catch it in the cold? But then their opponent was the Dolphins, who we know are a warm weather team, and Tua Tagovailoa was frigid in that game and couldn't do anything. Does the weather here benefit the Ravens, even though both these teams are used to bad weather, when you're supposed to have a lot of rain here? And the Ravens are a really strong running team. Now, they can throw the football, too. Lamar has improved greatly as a passer. But for Kansas City, we know Mahomes is their bread and butter, and drops have been an issue this year for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the weather is going to favor Baltimore here. Also, the weather's been really weird. I'm about like 25 minutes away from the stadium, and today it's 70 degrees. It is wet, and I think the rain's going to be the story here. And, Kansas City, like you said, they led the league. Their wide receivers did in drops this season. Their best wide receivers are rookie. I do think Kelsey's going to have a pretty big game here. I bet him to score a touchdown. It's even money. But I think it favors Baltimore, because Kansas City struggles to defend the run, whereas Baltimore can shut down the run. They can make Kansas City one-dimensional. I think Mahomes is going to have to use his legs. I like his rushing yards as well. But I think the weather here is going to favor Baltimore. Also, that crowd in Buffalo was electric. I love the throwing of the snowballs at the opponent. It's great. But I think
Whoa. You advocate throwing snowballs at players?
Yeah, when they're coming into the tunnel, it's safe, man. It's better than...
You're a degenerate. Oh, you're a savage.
It's better than back in the day, like when
batteries?
In Cleveland, when they were throwing beer bottles or batteries at people. Yeah. But, the other thing here, man, is I think this crowd is going to be absolutely electric in Baltimore. I think they're going to have a real home field advantage. I think it's going to be super loud. Nothing against the people of Buffalo. I love that fan base. I was cheering for them. I had the Bills Super Bowl futures, but I think this Ravens crowd is going to be ready to go, this fan base. So I think, home field advantage, obviously Baltimore here coming up.
So we're both on the Ravens laying 4. We kind of both like them at 4, but we're going to go with the Ravens. Man, if the Chiefs win this game, don't you have to pick them to win the Super Bowl? Because we've been fading the Chiefs for a while. I feel like then we have to wave the white flag, and then we'll end up losing the Super Bowl probably betting. That's how it goes. What is it? Taylor Swift, karma is the guy on the Chiefs. That would then be some karma working against us if we finally end up picking the Chiefs next week or 2 weeks.
Well, and really quick, I think the hedge there, the middle is, if we like Baltimore so much and we're betting big money on the Ravens, you're right. I think the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl. And I know how good the Niners are, man. But I just think the AFC is so much better. These two teams are so much better. I think the move is Travis Kelce, Super Bowl MVP. Worst price right now, 50-1. You could still get 66-1. Small, throw a small little bet on that. I just feel like if the Chiefs do win, I think it's going to either be Kelce or Pacheco that wins Super Bowl MVP. And I can see it, man. I put this out there that I could see him retiring, riding off into the sunset. I know he says he's coming back. He has a couple more good years. But, if they win the Super Bowl, man, I don't know. I could see him maybe hanging it up.
It's crazy. There was some talk show host here on CBS Sports Radio 5 weeks ago that said Jason Kelce will retire at the end of the season. And I don't think his brother is that far behind him. I wonder who that guy was. He does afternoons on CBS Sports Radio. I have no clue whatever happened to him and whatever happened to his career. Someone should hire him. He's a phenomenal guy. You should give him a big fat contract like Tony Romo money or something like that. I do like your Isaiah Pacheco touchdown. I have him and Lamar. $40 to win $183, and then I have Brandon Ayuk and Jahmyr Gibbs, 30 to win 135, and my 2 anytime touchdown parlays this week. So without further ado, Lions and 49ers, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. You can listen to the game on many of these same stations via Westwood One. The Niners are a 7-point favorite. This is how I went about this game. Earlier in the week, I would have said I would have laid the number. Kind of like how 49ers and Packers, early in the week, I said lay the number. And then as the week did go on and we got closer and closer to the game, I said, the road team is alive, not only to cover, but to win the game outright. However, last week I did pick the 49ers to win, but win the game by a few points, and that ended up cashing. I feel the same way this week about the 49ers and the Lions. I think the 49ers win the game, but they don't cover the 7 points. I am taking the Lions plus the 7. And I actually think that Jake Moody hits a field goal right at the end of the game, and the 49ers, who are trailing, end up taking the lead, and they win the game in the final seconds, 24-23 over the Detroit Lions. So I would go 49ers 24, Lions 23.
All right, I'm going to go. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I'm going to go San Fran 38. I'm going to go Detroit 24. I think San Francisco wins and covers the number. But really quick, let me make the case for the Lions, because I could be wrong here, man. And I kind of want to see Detroit, especially we talked about this. We're going to be in Las Vegas. I would love to see those fans in Las Vegas. They deserve this, man. First playoff win since 1991, and now they're a game away from the Super Bowl. Here's how they win this game, or at least keep it close. San Francisco, on paper, looks like the perfect team, but they have some issues on the offensive line other than Trent Williams. So I think Detroit's going to be able to get some pressure on Brock Purdy. I expect Brock Purdy to have a bounce-back game, especially if it's not wet out. I think he's going to have a big game. But if they get pressure, man, force some turnovers, they could also shut down the run. They have a top 10 run defense. Maybe they could take Christian McCaffrey out of the equation. And then on the defensive side of the ball for San Francisco, we knew their secondary was a little shaky, but the run defense, you saw that last week. Aaron Jones had a game, and their run defense, if you look at it, 26 in expected points against and 24th in rushing success rate allowed. I think this is going to be a big game for Jahmyr Gibbs. So I took Gibbs over 44.5 rushing yards. I took Sam Laporta under 5.5 receptions because of Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. I think they'll take away the middle of the field. So Detroit's going to have to run the ball to keep this one close. But I'm going to go with the Niners. I think it's Super Bowl or bust. I think, man, as crazy as it sounds, maybe this is the last legit shot they have at a Super Bowl with this roster. They might lose some guys next year. So I do like San Fran to win the game and cover, but I want to see Detroit get it done. Even as a Packer fan in the NFC North, I would love to see Detroit, man. They're the best story in football right now.
So Horvat and I are both on the Ravens, laying the 4 points. I take the Lions +7, but the Niners to win the game. Horvat takes the 49ers to pretty much blow out the Lions, laying the 7 points. I can't thank you enough, my friend Ryan Horvat, the host of BetMGM Tonight via BetQL. Sensational job all throughout the season here on CBS Sports Radio in your weekly spot. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Again, Lamar, over 64.5 rushing yards. Pat Mahomes, longest rush, over 11 yards. Gibbs, over 22.5 receiving yards. Oh, and George Kittle, over 61.5 receiving yards. Even if Debo does play in this game, I don't think he'll be 100%. Thanks so much for having me.
By the way, you better win these bets, because then I'm worried about your funds on that stake with how much you're betting right now.
Hey, if we go undefeated, dinner on me. Hey, even if we have one loss this weekend, dinner and a bottle of wine on me in 2 weeks.
Oh, wine and dine me. How about that? I like it. Ryan Horvat, thanks so much. There he is from BetMGM Tonight via BetQL. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's send it over to Richard Ackerman with the latest CBS Sports Radio update.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
Oh, what a ride it's been for the Lions, but they're hoping it lasts another couple of weeks. They'll face the Niners in the NFC Championship game on Sunday. Detroit has gone without a title since 1957. Jared Goff was cast off by the Rams shortly after they came up short in the Super Bowl. Has been rejuvenated in Detroit. The former number 1 pick overall is thrilled for another chance at the big moment.
This is the times you dream of as a kid, and you grow up, hoping to be in these final games, and we're one win away from, our ultimate goal of getting to the Super Bowl and winning that game as well. But we're where our feet are today, and being very present, and know this will be a challenge for us this week, and doing our best.
Receiver Deebo Samuel has battled a shoulder injury this week. No word on his status, or even if he does play. Certainly his effectiveness is in question. The first game of the day Sunday features the Chiefs and Ravens in Baltimore. Patrick Mahomes, the defending champs, looking to get back to the big game, while Lamar Jackson is the MVP frontrunner and will try to lead the Ravens their 3rd title in franchise history. The Ravens are activating tight end Mark Andrews off injured reserve, while Joe Thuney is out for the Chiefs due to a pec injury, while Isaiah Pacheco is listed as questionable. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, I'm Bart Winkler. New year, new show, new time. Catch the Bart Winkler Show evenings starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, only on CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, final segment of the day. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Carl in Atlanta says, Zach, do you think it's a mistake that the Atlanta Falcons did not hire Bill Belichick and elected to go with Raheem Morris? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I do think it's a mistake because Arthur Blank wanted to hire him. Arthur Blank's preference when he started his search was to hire Bill Belichick. With all that being said, he allowed Rich McKay, who did win a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the early 2000s, and he's been in Atlanta since the mid-2000s, and he's been to a Super Bowl, but he hasn't won a championship trophy in Atlanta. So your owner wanted to do one thing, and then you listen to people in the organization who obviously didn't want Belichick because then they thought they would lose their job. So I understand why a guy like Rich McKay, where Belichick didn't want to report to Rich McKay or listen to Rich McKay or have anything to do with him, I understand why Rich McKay would then go to Arthur Blank, especially when he's in the ear of the owner and he has a great relationship with the owner, and then say, oh, I don't think we should hire Bill. Like, I totally get why he would do that because he's looking out for himself. But it doesn't mean that Arthur Blank should have listened. And Raheem Morris is definitely deserving of another head coaching opportunity. But with all that being said, I don't think it should have been the Falcons because their clear preference was Belichick. And then I was reading in the New York Post that even though Rich McKay won the battle versus Bill Belichick, Arthur Blank then took care of McKay to avoid any potential issues that could arise in the future. McKay, the team CEO, is exiting the team's day-to-day football operations upon the new hiring of coach Raheem Morris, who owner Arthur Blank chose over Bill Belichick. So I guess now Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris will report directly to Arthur Blank. So that's just bizarre. You let McKay win the power struggle, and now you're going another step further to protect Rich McKay. Maybe you just shouldn't have listened to him. And maybe that's why the Falcons have been in the same old spot, and they're going to continue to be in the same old spot moving forward, where they continuously do not get it right. So congratulations to Raheem Morris. I like Raheem Morris. I think Raheem Morris, and I've said this now for the last year or two, is definitely deserving of another head coaching job. But I don't understand why Arthur Blank, who's not going to have many more opportunities to do this just naturally because he's in his 80s, why Arthur Blank wanted Belichick, and then because Rich McKay didn't want him, that's enough for him to say, okay, I'm not going to hire Bill Belichick as the head coach. And the future of Belichick, it's now fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Because I don't think the Commanders are hiring him. They're going to hire Ben Johnson, and the Seahawks aren't hiring him. If you're going to hire Bill Belichick, you should have never got rid of Pete Carroll. So you could have a hiring cycle where Vrabel and Belichick and Carroll all get shut out where there was a lot of jobs left. And the Commanders, a foregone conclusion that's going to be Ben Johnson. I think everyone would be shocked if it's not. For Seattle, there's been some speculation about Dan Quinn. You know, I think Vrabel could be in play there. So that's going to be fascinating to see what happens moving forward. So today is actually 4 years since Kobe Bryant passed away. I will never forget where I was. I was at my grandparents' house, and my brother-in-law was in town. And I remember seeing a Twitter alert that Kobe Bryant has passed away. And I'm like, what? And you see something on Twitter, and just because it's on Twitter doesn't mean that it's real, especially now more than ever. And it was from someone that I wasn't familiar with. So I was like, like how many times does someone report that someone died or something goes viral that someone died and then ends up being a hoax? Well, it wasn't. And then I remember the first thing I did, because I was working with Mike Biseglia at the time, longtime CBS Sports radio producer, now was producing podcasts. And I called Biseglia, who's like the biggest NBA fan that I've ever met. And I said, hey, there's a report out there, I don't know if it's verified or not, that Kobe Bryant has passed away. And at first he was like, get out of here. Like, no way. Like, everyone didn't think that this was real. And unfortunately, it was real. And it's one of the more shocking moments that I could ever recall. And when I was on the phone with Biseglia, that's when the TMZ article dropped. And you could say what you want about TMZ. They don't get a lot of things wrong. And when TMZ had that Kobe Bryant passed away, it's even still to this day, 4 years later, it doesn't seem real. And I think the first time it hit me, and I remember, right, that story overtook the first day of Super Bowl week. And we had a lot of people that knew Kobe Bryant on the show when we were in Miami. And, like, the conversations were obviously so emotional because, like, if you're 90 years old and you passed away, you lived a great life, you did everything that you could do. With the age Kobe was at, like, he was just finishing playing basketball, right? Now being a great father, the relationship he had with his daughters, he got robbed of so much life. And still to this day, it doesn't feel real. Like when I watch the eulogies and the eulogy that his wife gave and Michael Jordan gave, like that's when it started to hit me. But still, you almost still feel as if Kobe is alive, but you know that's not the case. So Stu, I know you're a big-time Lakers fan. I've never talked about this with you. Still 4 years later, like I can't even find the words because Kobe was like bigger than life and meant so much to so many people. And it's just still surreal and almost unimaginable that we're living right now and we've lived for 4 years without Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It doesn't feel like 4 years either. I know the whole COVID time kind of put us in a time warp almost where time felt weird. But yeah, 4 years. I couldn't believe that today was 4 years. I was like, wow, 4 years. Yeah. I think the most I cried before that in terms of sports was when Kobe retired his last game against the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I bawled my eyes out. And obviously when I was just sitting at home on a Sunday, I think the Pro Bowl was on or something. I was like, I don't even know what to watch.
Yeah, you're right, because ESPN cut away from the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I was watching the Pro Bowl, and I was just like on Twitter, and I start seeing the I think like you, the random tweets, and I was just like, I almost didn't believe it at first. And then once it sunk in, that was like the most emotion I've ever been about any sport. And even like, I don't want to relate it to like a family member dying, but like I was so into Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
He was my favorite athlete ever. Probably after my dad, my biggest role model. Like I would kind of like, yeah, I just love like the Mamba mentality and all that. I wear the Kobe Mamba mentality little wristband every day.
Wow, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I wear it every day. I adored him. I loved him. So when he passed away, it was terrible.
And you have favorite players that you may have never meet. Some of us get fortunate enough to meet those players, but it's like you're right. You do feel like they're part of your family because you've watched like every game of his or almost every game of his, and you become such a big fan. You almost think you know that person when in reality you don't. But just how many people threw on a basketball court that he impacted, especially with that Mamba mentality. Obviously, so unfortunate what happened, but he did provide so many great memories. And that's like, there's obviously a shame in all of it. But the real shame is he was just trying to be a good dad with his wife, right? With his daughters, his beautiful daughters. And he was just trying to live that life, right? The dad life of Kobe Bryant after basketball, and just got robbed of so many years. So rest in peace to Kobe Bryant, and that will actually do it today for this week of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll recap Conference Championship weekend on Monday. Big thanks to Joe Flacco, Brian Urlacher, Ryan Horvat, each and every one of you for stopping by, listening, tweeting, interacting with the show. I'll be in Baltimore for the AFC title game. Make sure you follow along on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. Stu, Jack Stern, thanks so much. We'll do it again on Monday, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.